It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 ANUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're off and running. We got a whole morning for you planned with engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Bill and I got a big announcement next week, Tuesday.
Yeah.
The Jeff and Bill World Tour is going all the way to the IHOP in Aurora.
They have allowed us out in public again. So evidently they've cleared up all the complaints from last time, and now we're okay. Legal has signed off on it yet again. So yeah, we're going to be out at the IHOP, the one in Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225. Come out and see us on Tuesday. We'll be hanging out there with you.
So from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., we do the entire show in the restaurant of the IHOP. You can have food, delicious food. Mile-high stack of pancakes if you'd like, and then come get your picture taken. We'll even put a few folks on air, probably have a conversation like we normally do with our callers. So it's a ton of fun. And the one thing I've noticed about these, I've now done 2 of these with Bill since the start of the show, is Bill is quite popular.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. They love to come
not.
See you and get your picture.
Mostly just
and
to make fun of me. It's not popular, but it's okay. I enjoy the interactions, and I love it. I love getting out. You know, I will wander the restaurant, so I will bother you. I go and I meet people that aren't even there to see us sometimes. So I'm like, hey, how are you? And make friends. That's just what I do. I just make friends.
That is very cool. So this will be 1 week before the election. Think about the conversations. Think about how much could change in 1 week. But this will all be next Tuesday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. IHOP, located at Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225. All right, so what do we have lined up for you today? Dr. Rich Guggenheim, who I consider a friend. He leads the Log Cabin Republicans here in Colorado. A great guy that has been really the voice of the gay against groomers movement. So a gay man himself standing against the grooming of children, particularly the trans grooming of children. A great guy. He and I are going to debate Amendment J. We're on different sides of this one. This is the one that will strike out of the Colorado State Constitution, the definition that of marriage that believes it is one man, one woman. That'll be in the 7 o'clock hour. You're not going to want to miss that. In the 8 o'clock hour, Kamala Harris's NBC interview, everything from abortion to transgenderism to being asked if she will pardon Trump, try to heal the divide in this country, move things forward. You won't want to listen to her answer. We'll get into that in the 8 o'clock hour. And then Keisha Russell, she's senior counsel with First Liberty Institute, the Foundation for Religious, or the people against religion, any type of religion in the public square, the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They're a little angry at Coach Prime for the terrible sin of having somebody pray and thank God after a football game. They have now sent a very nasty little letter to the University of Colorado. Well, our friends over at First Liberty Institute defending religious freedom have responded and are defending Deion Sanders up there. We're going to hear from them in the 9 o'clock hour. So a whole lot to cover. First, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 42 and clear right now in Denver, expecting a high of 77 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Colorado is one of 10 states with an E. coli outbreak, and it's linked to a popular McDonald's burger. The CDC says of the 49 people who've gotten sick after eating a quarter pounder, 27 are from here, and 1 resident died. It's unclear what ingredient is allegedly tainted, but investigators are focused on the onions and beef patties. McDonald's says the onions come from a single supplier, that serves 3 distribution centers. The burger has since been removed from the menus. A new poll shows that Kamala Khan with a 3-point lead nationally over former President DJT with under 2 weeks until Election Day. The Reuters poll shows that Harris has 46% and Trump at 43%. But in the same time frame, Trump beat out Harris in the Hill Decision Desk HQ's election forecast for the first time. That shows the GOP nominee has 52% chance of winning. So get out and vote, bring friends and family, and vote early, and try to do it today if you can. Tulsi Gabbard makes it official at a Trump rally in North Carolina last night.
And it is because of my love for our country, and specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party.
Formerly a Democrat, of course. Former President Obama. Jeff, are you there?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to sing my praises of Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's fantastic. And, the Democrats can have Liz Cheney. We get Tulsi Gabbard. The deal of the century.
Huge upgrade.
I brought Tulsi twice to the Western Conservative Summit. And let me give you a little insight on her real quick.
Okay, I love it.
A lot of the speakers we bring just come in, do the event, leave, right? They're on the speaking circuit, so they're traveling around, and they're here just long enough to give the speech, take some pictures, and then they're out. Tulsi would spend the entire weekend with us. She would go down and hang out with all the kids, all the high school kids, do extra talks with them, spend time getting to know each one of them, come to our dinners, meet our VIPs, work the exhibit hall. She would spend all 3 days hanging out with us. She is and I will say this, she is a genuine stateswoman.
Yep.
She really is. She
seems like it.
Grounded, rooted. She cares passionately about this country. She serves this country.
Right.
I think she could easily be the first woman president that this country has. I'd love to see that.
She looks great on camera.
Just, mean, really smart, great person. Yep. So glad that she's now part of this.
If we can win this thing, what about JD Vance president and she's the vice president?
That'd be great too.
And then in 12 years she could be the president. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a fine runway. We'll have to see what the next. I mean, you also have Ron DeSantis out there. I'd love to see in the mix in some capacity, but Republicans got a great future. And Tulsi's parents were very conservative people. In fact, they kind of ran the focus on the family state entity in Hawaii.
Oh, I forgot about that. You talked about that.
That's so right. She's she comes from good stock.
I like her. I think she's awesome. I mean, like you said, what a huge win. Liz Cheney, a trade for Tulsi Gabbard any day. Any day. Former President Obama says that America is ready for President Kamala. Here we go again. Kamala Harris. Kamala Khan.
Carmela.
Carmela.
As Bernie says. Carmela.
He adds a little R to it. Carmela. Golly. That's Bernie.
Do you see MSNBC jumping down his throat about the mispronunciation? No.
Did they?
No, of course
come on. No way they didn't.
Only Republicans.
Right. So Obama, he campaigned in Detroit last night for Harris along with Eminem, the rapper. I'll talk about him next hour. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she's a winner, and more. Israel says that it's killed the man believed to be. Hold on a second. Let me start that again. Israel says it's killed the man believed to have been the next in line to lead Lebanese terrorist Hezbollah. Hashem Safadine was apparently killed in an airstrike 3 weeks ago near Beirut. He was a top leader in the group and widely expected to take over for Hassan Nasrallah, killed in another Israeli attack last month. Former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries is out of custody and sporting an ankle monitor after posting a $10 million bond following his arrest Tuesday on sex trafficking and interstate prostitution charges. The 80-year-old's associate, James Jacobson, is out on $500,000 bond, while Jeffrey's romantic partner, Matthew Smith, man, these guys are sick, has been ordered to remain detained. And then, speaking of weird, hey, how about VP candidate Tim Walz?
Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dipshit on these things. You know it.
Wait a minute. Says the dude who waves like, he's so weird. And he's ripping to Elon Musk. Okay, fine. But it's like the pot calling the kettle black.
Think about it. Think about that. That guy is literally the richest man in the world, spending millions of dollars to help Donald Trump buy an election.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he did it in the private sector, unlike you people who live off the taxpayers. Unbelievable. Tim Walz, remember that. Colorado, let's see, one person, back to Colorado here. One person is dead following a crash between two rigs that closed I-70 in both directions near Lyman. The crash was reported just after 9:30 last night near mile marker 352, about 9 miles west of Lyman. Investigators say one of the tractor trailers wound up blocking the westbound lanes while the other crashed into the eastbound lanes. Denver is ranked 6th on this year's rattiest cities list by Orkin. The pest control company says the list is determined by the number of new residential rodent treatments performed between September of last year and August of this year. 10 years ago, Denver wouldn't make the top 100, and now they're in the top 10. Wow. We need to get some of Billy's snakes out there to clean the city
That's the
up.
problem. No snakes.
Yeah, let's get some
See?
snakes.
Here we go.
Man. Let's get a ton of snakes out there.
That's the thing is, I
Clean
in my
the city.
neighborhood, I see people kill bull snakes. And I'm like, those are the snakes that are going to be eating the rodents that you're worried about in your neighborhood. Those are the snakes that are going to keep other larger, that are going to keep other snakes out and away. Those snakes are the ones that are going to kill all the stuff you don't like. But I see people killing the bull snakes. Yeah. Bull snakes are great snakes, and they're great for rodent keeping. So I'm not well.
Heck yeah.
Oh, well, what do I know?
I'm right there with you, man. I am all about snakes when it comes to that. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 41 in Aurora, 40 in Lafayette, 42 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It is Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Sunny to partly sunny skies, mild, nice weather. We're going to have highs mid-70s today, upper 40s tonight, lower 70s on Thursday. Touch cooler, 60s Friday through Friday dry. More dry, mild weather for the weekend with highs in the 70s, lows in the 40s. Changing weather, though, colder temperatures and showers by next Tuesday. Weather sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The Los Angeles Times won't endorse a presidential candidate. The first time since 2008. This is a report coming from Fox News. The Los Angeles Times will not endorse a presidential candidate this year. A reporter on Tuesday said that the paper's editorial board will not endorse a presidential candidate for the first time since it restarted the practice when it endorsed then Senator Barack Obama in 2008, adding the decision came from the owner himself. But according to two people familiar with the situation, executive editor Terry Tang told editorial board staff earlier this month that the paper would not be endorsing a candidate in the presidential election this cycle, a decision that came from the paper's owner, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, a doctor who made his fortune in the healthcare industry. By the way, he's worth like $6 billion. Invented a pill that has to do with treating cancer. An LA Times spokesperson declined to comment to Fox News Digital on the report. The LA editorial board issued presidential endorsements from the 1880s through 1972, only returning to the practice to endorse Obama in 2008. Since then, they've exclusively endorsed Democratic presidential candidates. Tanny also reported that the person who bought the paper in 2018 previously overruled the editorial board in 2020 after it had planned to endorse a candidate in the Democratic primary. After initially choosing Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, at the last minute, Soon-Shiong overruled its leadership and said there would be no endorsement in the primary race. Do you think those endorsements play out and actually affect anything, Billy?
Depends on who is doing it. I don't think newspaper endorsements carry the weight they did decades ago because no newspapers. That's the thing. Yeah, right. Is they've gone away, so they don't have the influence. And I think it is, honestly, personally, I think it's a tragedy for local news coverage. I think it's horrible that we don't have a larger, more robust, singular, regular like the Denver Post or the two competing Rocky Mountain News, Denver Post. That is a fantastic way to compete. I know the Gazette and the Colorado Sun are out there doing their best, but it's not necessarily the same as that large print edition that comes out every day. There's something different about that being distributed across the cities. I don't think those necessarily hold. I think if you like a person, then I think that their endorsement can help. But I can't imagine anybody that could come out there and endorse a candidate that would turn around and go, "Oh, well, okay, that seals it for me. That seals it." Even though, I
was leaning that direction, but exactly. The Denver Post said exactly they like Kamala,
and that's why I don't think when this is the issue, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, and I'll go back to Taylor Swift. I don't think that when Taylor Swift said, I endorse Kamala. And if we go through that, you go through her post. And again, she's really intelligent based on her communication. She said, I did my research. You go do yours and choose who you think fits best with your values and choices in life. That's what she said to her followers. She didn't go out there and say, you better vote for Kamala. She just said, this is who I'm choosing. You go do your own research and make your own choice. And that got them like, oh, okay. That probably persuaded some to look at it and think, maybe I'll think about Kamala. Maybe it's solidified some. But when Trump says, I hate Taylor, now you have a villain. Now you have an enemy. And that, in my mind, that unendorsement or that hatred post did so much more to galvanize that fan base than Taylor's original endorsement. If he would have let it lie, there would have been some movement, but not what you're seeing now. That's my example of how endorsements can change, that it can persuade you a little bit, but I don't know of any individual that could say, I'm going to vote for this person, and a singular vote will go, oh, that settles it for me. Now, all the other stuff's going on in my life. That settles it.
The LA Times did release its statewide and national endorsements last week, including Democrat candidates for the U.S. House and Senate. Why do you think, this is just conjecture because we don't have his statements, but why don't you think the owner, if he's willing to endorse in other races, but not the president's race?
Because blowback.
From
Trump.
Own state.
No, from Trump. That's the issue. So that's
from Trump.
Yeah.
Why would Trump?
Trump has talked about
because he might say I hate the LA Times.
No, remember he thinks that CBS should be investigated for the Kamala Harris interview for the editing. He's questioned whether or not they should
be investigated for that. Why would they release the transcript on that? They've released transcripts, full transcripts of lots of other people.
I know, but the investigation to prove what? What are you looking to prove inside the investigation?
Maybe an agent for the campaign.
How an agent? What makes it an agent?
Because you won't, if you're deceptively editing it.
But did they deceptively edit it?
Well, we don't know.
Well, actually, we do, because what happened is CBS and 60 Minutes has released it, the entire full clip that they gave to Frontline. And inside that clip is the answer that Kamala gave. And then there is the clip that Frontline used. It wasn't as if CBS and 60 Minutes went and chose something else, which was the original charge. Was they went to a different answer and liked that better, so they pulled that forward and put it there because the answer fit the question better. That's not necessarily what happened.
Just release the transcript. It just seems super easy.
But I know
we don't edit anything here with regards to our interviews.
No, and I understand
people can watch the full thing.
I understand, but if they didn't want to release the transcript, I don't think that rises to the level of investigation. And that's where I'm going with this. The idea that just because now it's like, oh my gosh, they've done something wrong, and Trump has gone as far as to say maybe they should lose their license. He's talked about going after media outlets that he dislikes.
You think that's the reason why?
Yeah, and here's the reason why is because if I had to guess, the billionaire doctor, probably more conservative. If I had to guess, if I had to just guess, if you walked him into the room, I would guess probably going to be more conservative. Now, he does own the LA Times, so that does water that down a bit. And he has allowed them to endorse Democrats.
South African, did you know that?
No, maybe he knows Elon. But we've seen him come in and play with some endorsements on Democrats. So it leads me to believe that he is not this full-throated Democrat, because, and what I go back to is the primary endorsement, the idea of Elizabeth Warren. He could have come in and said, no, we're going to endorse this person. He could have done that if he wanted to. Instead, he just yanked it and said, no, we're not going to endorse anybody. My guess is, and do I think that he's MAGA? No, I think he's probably more conservative than he is liberal. And I think that's the reason. I'm just guessing that the reason is just in case.
I'm just going to throw this out there. He's lived in a state where Kamala Harris was in leadership, and he doesn't like her.
That could be it,
but
too.
He doesn't want to quite go to the full extent of taking the LA Times to embrace Trump, which would have been like an A-bomb. Right?
And
it would have been huge.
And here's the thing is,
maybe he just doesn't like her.
And here's the thing is, I think my critique about being afraid of Trump, I think holds, and I think you've got a whole lot of real good rationalization, not rationalization, but real good reasoning. I think that could be a very good thing, that maybe he experienced her inside of California and didn't like what he saw from her either as AG. I don't think DA, because of where he possibly lived. Don't know if he was in San Francisco, so it may not have touched his world. But AG and Senate, yeah, I think you could absolutely have something there that he just doesn't like her. And let's go back to my point about retribution. He might also be afraid of Kamala Harris retribution or Democrat Party retribution. So I think that to me is it, that regardless of who it is on the political spectrum, I think that's why he's pulling back, is he doesn't want to have the blowback inside of the paper having to do that. And it could be blowback from his editorial staff. It could be blowback from readers. It could be blowback just from the community. It could be blowback from either the Harris campaign or the Trump campaign or the eventual president. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Why do you think the Los Angeles Times choosing not to endorse this year? They've been endorsing Democrats since 2008, and it's a mainstream newspaper. I can tell you, I ain't holding my breath to hear who the Denver Post is going to endorse, because I can tell you pretty much who Megan Schrader likes over there.
Yeah, that's true. So, and the more I think about it, in my mind, the balance, the scales that are in there, I think you've got a stronger point of him not liking Kamala, but we're not wanting to come out and make it public. If we were in Vegas and I had to lay odds down and say, what am I going to bet? Is it because he dislikes Kamala and doesn't want to have her wrath, or dislikes Trump and doesn't want to have his wrath? My guess is probably Kamala. I think you're right on that one, my friend. I think you're right.
I appreciate that. Well, I'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Or text the Dan Caplos Law text line, 720-819-5115. Secondary question, do these endorsements mean anything? When the Denver Post comes out, like they will, and say, I looked this up one time, the last time they endorsed a Republican. I may have been.
Did we have cars?
Bush in 2000, maybe. And they did famously endorse Cory Gardner against Mark Udall.
That is true.
And then 6 years later, walked it back and said it was a big mistake.
Yeah. And I would also want to know from the listener, who is that person that has changed your vote or has influenced you based on their recommendation?
Yeah.
What endorsement has made you go, oh, I'm going to take a second look at this person, or even convinced you to go ahead? Because Jeff and I are kind of looking at this going, not sure the endorsements mean as much as we pretend they mean. So I'm curious in the real world how it's impacted your life. What do you think?
I got the Denver Post to line up with me on one issue.
One
That was
congratulations.
contentious when I went in to make the argument against doctor-assisted suicide.
Oh, good.
And I said, knowing our insurance company, this was the argument I made, knowing how the insurance industry works and how much cheaper it is to just take the pills, do you guys really genuinely believe that the insurance industry isn't going to push people towards this? That was
Great
the
argument
that turned them on that. And then they actually came out against doctor-assisted suicide. We lost because I don't lose anything social in the state. But
that is an excellent argument.
But that was the one time where we actually connected on something, even though we probably disagree on everything else. So
that's an excellent argument, though.
Yeah.
That is, and I think it's a truism too, because of course, the company that is being run for profit is hardwired to take the less expensive choice always.
Well,
and if that is kill the client, okay, especially when they're at the end of their life, because the lifetime value of the client, you have a ton of lifetime value in your 20s and 30s. In your 60s, 70s, 80s, your lifetime value is minimal, and the chance that you're going to be a draw rather than a contributor, yeah, absolutely, on the actuarial table, death would be the preferable choice for them. Of course it would.
Well, and guess who was sitting in that room with me?
Ooh,
Dean Singleton.
Oh, man.
And you remember Dean had health issues.
Yeah, he is.
I think, I don't know what I don't want to guess, but he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it still is. Yeah.
So when you're having that conversation about insurance companies and price was impactful to him.
Yeah.
Well, get lots of text messages here. Herschel Walker. Someone just texted in Herschel Walker.
I love that.
Nothing more than just Herschel Walker.
That is fantastic. And again, no explanation needed. Not a single thing is needed there. That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
7061. Kamala pushed labor bills in California and driving the cost of doing business up.
It's a good point. Could be.
Endorsements are interesting. They want to hear our thoughts on another issue. We might be able to get to that later, Andrew. But give us a call, 303-696-1971. Los Angeles Times won't endorse a presidential candidate for the first time since 2008. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
The sermon of an African-American pastor has gone viral after Pastor Alton R. Williams from World Overcomers Church sent a strong message to the Black community about how biblical beliefs should be political beliefs. Listen.
In other words, I gotta be with my color. I gotta stand with my color, meaning I'll reject Christ. Color gonna get you in trouble. You're getting off with God because you're trying to stand with black. I can't vote for a party that is for all kind of sexual perversion. I can't go with a party that says you can be a boy today and a girl tomorrow. I can't support a party that wants to remove God from its party platform. You in trouble when the nation forgets God. Y'all got to make a decision. It's either God or the devil.
An official with Iran's Revolutionary Guard has been charged in a plot to kill an Iranian-American author on U.S. soil. Ruhollah Baz-Gandhi was charged in an updated indictment filed against those accused of trying to kill Masih Alinejad. The Iranian opposition activist and journalist has been living in exile in New York City. Her identity is not in court papers, but she has confirmed that she was the intended target.
In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, the Los Angeles Times not endorsing Kamala Harris. Is that indicative of how the owner feels about her leadership in the state of California? I mean, this is her hometown paper. I guess the San Francisco Chronicle would be her real hometown paper, but my goodness, the LA Times is probably the biggest newspaper in California not endorsing the hometown gal who served as attorney general, who served as U.S. senator, who was the vice president. Have they seen enough of her that they're like, we're sticking out of this one? They can't go all the way to get into MAGA world, but they're not willing to endorse her. I think that's an indictment of her. Billy making the argument, well, maybe they don't want to deal with the wrath of Trump in a second term, because he has said, he's going to go after some of these media outlets like CBS. And why CBS won't release the transcript to me is just kind of crazy. Like, that just seems to put this all to bed. Here it is. Here's the transcript. They've done it with other reporters, and we're talking with other interviewees, and we're talking 60 minutes here. So why not put it out? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why they aren't either, but I don't think it's dispositive of anything per se. And the other one could be that that the paper could be scared of Kamala Harris blowback, that if they aren't loyal to her, what happens inside of the White House. And we've talked about, and this is an example of Trump, but he, in the last couple of weeks at a campaign stop, talked about how if he doesn't like California, and so he'll just withhold wildfire money. Just do it because... Yeah, and you're like, okay, and so that's what I'm talking about, is that type of political retribution. Would the Harris administration decide, instead of doing something that could benefit California, do something somewhere else? That maybe he's afraid of that. Maybe that's what he experienced when she was in California. I don't know, but I think he got a point there.
But if they don't have wildfire money, they can always rely on their imprisoned jailers.
Yes,
like Kamala
that's a suggestion. Yes,
used in 2011 and 12. So
that's such a weird argument. But we need the labor force,
right?
No,
to go fight wildfires.
Yeah.
I actually did a whole documentary on wildfires.
Yeah,
and I'm a member of the board of the American Lands Council, and we're the organization that's fighting to free the Western United States from all the Western land being owned by the federal government. This isn't the case in Kansas. It's not the case in Illinois. It's nowhere else. But you get to the Western United States, and the federal government's like, no, this is our land. And in fact, like places like Wyoming, 50% of the land. And we're not talking national parks. Those are beautiful. We'll keep those with the federal government. It's just like random BLM land out there. It just sits there. They won't give it to the states. They put all these restrictions on it. But the wildfire issue, the wolves, all that stuff, very personal to me.
You don't say.
Bill, how long do you think the Denver Post sticks around?
Ooh.
These newspapers like the LA Times. Do they provide a service? They do to me, because I use them to gauge news stories we're going to talk on the radio the next day. So I rely on them. I go to Wall Street Journal, New York Times. I think the big guys will stick around for a while. But in Denver, the Gazette is far superior to the Denver Post.
Yeah.
Far superior.
Yeah, the coverage. And I would even put the Colorado Sun as being a really strong, hard competitor against what the Denver Post does.
And that's kind of like CPR in the sense that they're funded by donations, grants, stuff like that.
Yeah. I like some of what they're reporting is just a little bit stronger. Now, there are some good reporters, individuals, and people at the Post. The problem is it's dead tree media. That's the issue.
Yeah.
And no one consumes it that way, which hurts me on a deep personal level, because one of the things that I enjoyed the most was opening up the news or opening up the Post and going through it. And I would go through both papers, even as a kid. Oh, yeah. We're talking at the age of like 12. I'm going through the papers on a daily basis.
But I think a lot of it was the quality of the writers. I can't tell you a single editorial writer or opinion piece writer over the Post that I look.
Yeah.
At the Gazette, it's Jimmy. It's Jimmy Sengenberger.
Yeah. He's great.
Dude, he is doing great work.
He's doing a wonderful job.
I look forward to his columns. Like there's certain writers that every week you're like, I can't wait to see what they do.
Yeah.
Because the work, the investigative work, the opinion piece, Mike Rosen was the same way.
Yeah.
The guy over at Sports Illustrated for years, I forget his name, who always had the back page.
Yeah.
Those were the guys I always looked forward to. I can't tell you a single person over at the Post that I'm like, okay, new week.
I look forward to Brockler's columns.
Yeah, Brockler
and things. And so
in the Gazette.
I think there's one that I always when he wasn't doing politics, but was doing more sports, I liked Mike Litwin in the sports section because he made his bones here in Colorado.
He do sports?
He started out as a sports writer.
Such
here.
a lib.
I know
man.
he is,
can't.
but that's where he has a unique voice when he writes, and inside the sports realm, it is really entertaining how he puts a story forward, and his commentary on it is very entertaining. Outside of the politics, but that's where he started, was doing the sports stuff here. The other problem is, when I was younger, fewer media outlets, because I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have the ability to scroll the web, and also I didn't have the ability for my friends, neighbors, and people in the community to start their own media outlets, which is an opportunity as well. And so it is this competition, and newspapers are struggling with profitability because their model is bad for this market. And I'm talking not just Denver, I'm just talking universally. The model's bad. So I think the Post probably 15 years. And I think I'm being generous. I can see it gone in 10, only because of the size of it. They survive on advertising. And you've seen the advertising shrink and shrink and shrink. And the easiest example of that is, how heavy is your Sunday paper versus 15 years ago? I know. I don't even get. And the Sunday used to be something. There was a thing where it made my wife happy to go through all the circular ads, all the advertising. She enjoyed that tactile advertising interaction on a Sunday while having her coffee, because it was somewhat brainless and relaxing and just kind of fun. And you can't get that anymore by getting the weekly paper. So we haven't gotten the daily paper in years because of that.
But
we're a hardcore.
I spend probably almost more money on newspapers now than I ever have, because I pay for subscriptions to the Post, to the New York Times, to the Wall Street Journal, and then a whole host of these smaller newspapers as well. One I'm really looking forward to reading today. This comes from the Free Press. We'll talk about it tomorrow. BLM collected over $90 million in donations. Where did it go?
Oh, geez.
It went to people's houses.
Now,
they quote big ass mansions.
Oh, wow. Now, see, the weird thing is that because of that paywall, I have restricted some of the access, because what I'll do is I'll go out there, and I don't have a subscription to the Post. I don't have a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. I have a subscription to New York Times. I don't have any of those. So I will go out and I will find places that post that elsewhere and will help me get around that paywall. There are certain sites that are news aggregators that they pay a fee. And so if you click the link on their site, they'll take you to that. Yeah, they'll take you to that.
I think that's probably where it's going to go. You're going to end up having to coalesce these into a single payment, because I pay for the Gazette, Colorado Politics, Wall Street Journal. I mean, I just lose track of how many subscriptions, but they're all like $4 or $5 a month. It's not crazy.
And here's the problem I have with that, though, is the relationship I have inside that media. You're going to have to get me to a place that you are intimately important in my life for me to get behind the paywall. And the reason I say that is because you're selling advertising. And what I mean by that is, here we are, Jeff, you and I, on the air, 6:44 in the morning in Denver, Colorado, on 710 KNUS, Denver's talk leader. And the way the station makes money is by selling advertising. We're not charging any of our listeners a fee in order to have access to this show. It is completely and totally free, and we make our money based on gathering that audience and then selling stuff to them. That's how this works, and that's the model that I look at. And when the newspaper that is going to be feeding me ads says, in order for us to do this, you need to give me money, bite me. No, I don't. I have to.
I think maybe sometimes they offer like a totally ad-free, but it's a lot more expensive.
And there's some of those. There is one service I pay for. One. Because it is fan-freaking-tastic, and I love it. And it's a news aggregator, and I will never give this one up, and it's one that I will pay for annually.
Who's that?
Ground News. Love Ground News.
Check them out.
And this is the reason why. Ground News is a news aggregator, and what they do is when they present the news stories to you, they tell you the story, and then they'll tell you where it's being covered. They'll give you the perspective, how many liberal outlets, how many middle-of-the-road outlets, how many right-wing outlets. They'll give you a list of all the major outlets. They'll also tell you the sourcing behind it, and they'll even tell you who owns the outlet and who's paying for it. And they have another really cool deal called a blind spot feature. So you can go in there and you can look at stuff that nobody else is seeing, that things are missing. And you can also curate that so that if you lean more towards, rights and conservative media, you can cue that so it brings up left-wing media. So it'll bring attention to stories that you're missing based on your media consumption. It is a
it seems very cool.
fantastic service. Yeah, it is wonderful. That's the only one I'm going to pay for.
So where we started, the LA Times choosing not to endorse a presidential candidate this year. That is a blow, from my opinion, to Kamala Harris. It is the biggest newspaper in her home state going, we're sitting this one out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful in my mind. All right. Speaking of great organizations, I want to talk to you about QC Kinetics. You don't have to keep sleeping with that or keep living with that joint pain. Real lasting relief is possible with help from QC Kinetics. People here are getting their lives back, getting their mobility back thanks to QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in cellular therapies that can revitalize your joints. I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine, using your own body's healing properties, highly concentrated and carefully placed in your achy joints. Back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain. These are cutting-edge treatments that require no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. It's a quick in-office procedure that can get you moving again, especially as you get older. I was talking to friends, specialists in this. You have till about the age of 70 to continue to strengthen your body. And then once you hit 70, there's not a lot more you can do after that. You can kind of slow the decline, but those 40, 50, 60 years, you got to keep moving. And if you're dealing with arthritis or pain, you don't want to get to surgery. Try advanced regenerative medicine with QC Kinetics under the leadership of Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a former orthopedic surgeon and a pioneer in clinical regenerative medicine. Listen, is arthritic joint pain keeping you from doing the things you love? Pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder? You owe it to yourself to learn more. Call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. That's 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, with locations in Aurora, Superior, Highlands Ranch, and Colorado Springs. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
the Jeff and Bill Show. It's that time of morning to wake you up with the jolt of you.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to make questionable decisions because nobody in charge is awake yet. It's what we call You Choose the News, America's favorite fake radio news game show. I have scoured the interwebs for moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans and given them even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show with you. Alrighty, gentlemen. Blake Olson in the newsroom. Jeff Hunt in the studio. Here are your choices, sirs. Headline number 1, bestseller. Best crime. Headline number 2, defending your home. Headline number 3, can't take a joke. And headline number 4, fraudulent motive. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Let's start with you can't take a joke.
Yeah, you can't take a joke. We're going to Cincinnati here, and we are going to meet 77-year-old Kathleen Geiger, who just obviously doesn't understand the meaning of joke. And Arthur Osborne is the recipient of said joke, 58 years old. Evidently, there was some harmless banter. They were going around kind of joking back and forth. And that's when Kathleen decided to shoot Arthur. As a joke. Yes. We don't know exactly what the conversation was about.
Was this a Democrat lawmaker in
I don't know.
Missouri yesterday who shot a...
I have no idea. But the idea is,
a reporter?
Is she's now being charged with reckless homicide. She shot him in the groin, which again,
Nice.
I want to know what they were talking about. That all of a sudden it was, aha, bang, bang, right there in the jimmy. What is going on? I don't understand. Yeah, but that's what happened. So, and now she's like, what? But I was just joking. You don't get to joke with the bullets. Yeah, that's not good. Stop bleeding. It's funny. Stop. You're laughing. Why are you crying? It's supposed to be funny. Stop bleeding all over the place. You're ruining the joke.
Horrible.
I know. That's horrible. Alrighty, Blake Olson, your choice, sir. Bestseller, best crime, defending your home, or fraudulent motive?
Ooh, best crime.
Yes, bestseller, best crime. We're going international for this one, traveling all the way to lovely Berlin, Germany. German police have busted a pizzeria in the western city of Dusseldorf because of a particular side order that was on the menu. If you ordered the number 40, it was one of their best-selling pizzas. It is fantastic, wonderful toppings, beautiful tomato sauce that'll just make your mouth water. Oh, yeah, and the cocaine that's included as well. Yeah, that too. If you were ordering the number 40 on the menu, it came with a side bag of 400 grams of cannabis and about 3 grams of cocaine.
Amazing.
Yes. Yeah, if you ordered it.
And
No,
did
don't know
they
how much they were
sprinkle
charging
that
for
on
it.
top,
No,
or
it
what did they-
would come in the box is what they're saying. So the idea is they were running drugs out of the pizza parlor.
No
And you'd
way.
order the 40 and then it would show up with the stuff. I want to know how many people just thought the 40 was just a really expensive pizza. And they were super confused. Like, how come this one's like $300? The rest of them are like 45. What's going on here? I don't
Really
understand.
heavy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but afterwards you have little sides and you're like, I need more of the pizza. Right now. More pizza.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. Jeff Hunt, your choice, sir. Defending your home or fraudulent motive?
Defending your home.
Yes, defending your home. Tributes have been pouring in for an Italian surfer after she was invading someone's home and was sadly killed. No, it wasn't a regular human home. It was she was in the water, and evidently a swordfish took a little bit of objection to her being there.
Ooh.
Yeah, while she was surfing, she went to the water, and the swordfish stabbed her in the chest. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. It jumped up out of the water and nailed her in the chest.
I
and
heard
they
these
couldn't-
things are vicious, man.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
fished for them.
Yeah, and they couldn't save her. So yeah, she passed away. I know. But again, you were in the fish's home. What do you expect? That's why the sharks are pissed at us too. Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. That's
exactly.
it, gentlemen. Back to you.
All right, coming up in the 7:00 hour, gonna debate gay marriage. Yes, it's 2009. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, October 23rd. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. The Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your coach, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. Let's get to work. We've got a whole hour planned out for you with engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, should Colorado's definition of marriage, being only a union of one man and one woman, be removed from the state constitution? I am a hard no on Amendment J. My good friend, Dr. Rich Guggenheim with the Log Cabin Republicans of Colorado, is supportive of it. So we're going to have a discussion. Not going to want to miss it. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 41 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 77 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: a man showed up at the Denver Police District Station last week to report a kidnapping and aggravated assault. He told police 4 people he lived with had held him against his will and assaulted him, including amputating a finger. They've arrested 2 people in connection to the alleged kidnapping and assault. Police arrested 19-year-old Jose Pineda Moreno and 34-year-old Darwin Veliz Gonzalez and held them to investigate first-degree kidnapping, assault, and disfigurement. McDonald's Quarter Pounders are being linked to an E. coli outbreak here and across multiple states.
On Tuesday, the CDC announced they're working with McDonald's to determine what ingredient in the burgers was contaminated. The fast food chain has halted use of fresh onions and quarter-pound beef patties in several states as a precaution. At least 49 people in 10 different states were sickened, and 1 person has died. Cases have been reported in Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oregon, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. I'm Brian Shook.
The person who died was from Colorado. So Eminem stumping for Kamala Khan with former President Obama in Michigan last night.
That people shouldn't be afraid to express their opinions. And I don't think anyone wants an America where people are worried about retribution of what people will do if you make your opinion known.
Okay, good.
Huh.
I have an opinion.
Where have you been the last 15 years? Go work for a Fortune 500 company and say you believe in God. You believe life begins at conception. You believe in traditional marriage, and see how far your career goes in corporate America or Hollywood or the NFL or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these guys want to talk about retribution. We've been living it for the last 15 years.
Try to be a president for 4 years, and then try to run again, and not even run again, and then be forced into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 courts to defend yourself. What a joke. He is a fool.
I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld.
Couldn't be further from the truth. Gee, can you believe that? This dude is so far. Although I will tell you, he looks better. He looks a lot healthier. He's got a nice beard. He's dressing nicely. He looks mature. He just hasn't figured it out yet. Hey, maybe in 10 years, he becomes a conservative. So after hearing Eminem, here's Biden last night.
This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up.
Yeah!
Politically lock him up.
Politically. Oh, no, they're going to clip that. Politically.
But see, what's crazy about it, I mean, it's true in one sense. You hear them all clapping and cheering him on, and then he realizes, I meant politically lock him up. I mean, what is going on? I mean, I can't tell if he is kind of supporting Kamala Khan or just handing it to her.
Well,
You know?
and wait till we play the NBC News
Trump.
interview later, where she's asked to, explain how she told the American people this guy is fit for years. Yes. She still doesn't have a good answer for that. Well, she's a great president. He's a great president.
Right. I mean, it contradicts everything that she says. So here's Vivek Ramaswamy on Laura Ingraham on Fox last night.
I think that deep down inside, he meant lock up Kamala Harris. That's who he's really upset with. He wants to put on a MAGA hat and probably privately vote for Donald Trump. But the reality is, on the other hand, if you take him seriously at his word, it's not surprising that he's saying this. After all, he is, people forget this, nominally the U.S. president right now that oversees a Justice Department that is pursuing multiple criminal prosecutions or has tried to against Donald Trump. So the idea that he would finally say lock him up, after all, that's what the Justice Department that works for Biden has actually been trying to do for the last year and a half. It all kind of makes sense on multiple different levels.
I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld.
What a dummy. All right, DJT and Kamala Khan will both be in Georgia. Trump today, Harris tomorrow. One person is dead following a crash between two rigs that closed I-70 in both directions near Lyman. The crash was reported just after 9:30 last night near mile marker 352, about 9 miles west of Lyman. 37 in Castle Rock, 40 in Glendale, 41 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on Wednesday, Hump Day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Sunny to partly sunny skies, mild, nice weather. We're going to have highs mid-70s today, upper 40s tonight, lower 70s on Thursday. Touch cooler, 60s Friday through Friday dry. More dry, mild weather for the weekend with highs in the 70s, lows in the 40s. Changing weather, though, colder temperatures and showers by next Tuesday. Weather sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us is Dr. Rich Guggenheim. He's with the Log Cabin Republicans here in Colorado. They represent the LGBT community, the Republicans in the LGBTQ community. And I've been very impressed with Dr. Guggenheim's work around Days Against Groomers, which is trying to protect children from the radical LGBTQ agenda, particularly the transing agenda that's coming through from them. And he did put out a video the other day talking about Amendment J. Now, Amendment J, if you vote yes on it, it will remove the provision of the state constitution that says only a union of one man or one woman shall be valid or recognized as a marriage in this state. This was approved via ballot initiative in 2002, I believe. And now there's an effort to remove that in light of the Supreme Court decision in Obergefell that allows for gay marriage. I disagree. I believe that you should vote no on this. And I'll give Dr. Rich Guggenheim the first perspective on this. Tell us why people should vote yes on Amendment J.
Well, thanks, Jeff, for having me. My reason for it is quite simply founded in the conservative ideology of limited government and the fact that freedom and liberty belong to all people, and this concept of freedom versus force versus freedom. And then the other piece of it is, quite frankly, it comes down to defending capitalism, which, as you know, is the most ethical form of economics. And, when you look at how much same-sex marriage when it was legalized, contributed to our economy to the tune of $3.8 billion and has created 45,000 jobs. From an economic perspective, a free market perspective, it just makes sense to get government out of regulating marriage and say, you know what, we have an obligation to protect the rights and freedoms of all people, regardless of who that person's sexually attracted to.
Great. So from my perspective, Dr. Guggenheim, and I really appreciate you taking time to engage in this debate. This is what we love about this show and why it doesn't happen on other shows. I think it's important to define marriage. Can you tell me what marriage is?
Well, you know, I'm going to ask you what marriage is and what informs your perspective of what marriage is.
So marriage is a unique relationship from pretty much any other relationship, right? So the state doesn't really regulate, for instance, friendships, doesn't regulate who you date. It doesn't regulate who you have sex with. It doesn't do any of that. It has a special vested interest in marriage because marriage in itself is different. The definition of marriage is one man, one woman, spending a lifetime in commitment to each other, raising the children that relationship produces. So why does the state have interest in this particular relationship when it doesn't in who you date, even who you have sex with? Is because marriage is the primary institution by which future citizens of the state are created and shaped. And so it has a vested interest in supporting it, in celebrating it, in honoring it, and in this case, defining it. So if we're going to take the gender restrictions out of marriage, right, we're going to say, well,
hold on, I got to interrupt you right there, Jeff.
Go ahead.
It's sex, not gender.
Okay. Yeah. So I see them as the same, right? Sex, gender.
Don't make me bring the space round into this.
Right. Bill's going to get into it. I think sex informs gender. I think they're uniquely linked. But anyways, if
we just got to clarify that for the people out there who think there are infinite genders. There are only two sexes, male and female, and it's genetically determined at conception.
Yeah. So the gay marriage movement took sex out of the equation with regards to marriage, right? So two men can have a relation, it can be married, two women can be married. But what I see in all this is a lack of definition anymore. So we're willing to take sex out of it. Why don't we take number out of it too? Why can't 3 people be married? Why can't 4 people be married? Why we have taken away the foundation entirely for what marriage is. And we actually have no definition of it anymore. But I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Guggenheim.
And, you know, that's interesting that you say that. And I'm curious to know what perspective, like what aspect of your life formed that perspective. Because in some cultures, bigamy is actually legal. In some cultures, religion dictates that marriages are arranged. In some cultures, even here in the United States, not too long ago, and still unfortunately, we see again another push to lower the age of consent. Your marriage could be as young as 13 or 14. And throughout history and in different cultures, marriage is defined differently. So I'm curious to know what it is that informs your definition of marriage as between one man and one woman, because even here in the United States, there are certain religions and certain cultures that practice bigamy. The Latter-day Saint movement practices polygamy, where a man can have more than one wife. And they will use the Bible to say that it is biblically justified.
Well, I think you can make a very reasonable argument that it is the best form of relationship for the development of children. So let's look at one man, one woman, right? I think there's lots of complications if you bring in 3, 4, 5 people. So I think you can make an argument that polygamy or bigamy or anything that happened in Utah, and most Mormons don't believe in this, by the way. It's a fundamentalist kind of sect of Mormonism that does. But I think you can make an argument that it is not best for children. And when you have one man, one woman, you have both male and female traits that are uniquely different pouring into those children in a stable context where the dad's not running out sleeping with different people. He doesn't have 3 or 4 different families. All social science points to the fact that you remove a dad from the relationship, that child is more likely to end up in prison. That child is less likely to graduate from high school. That child is more likely to end up in poverty. You have all the social science that goes, okay, so you take the dad out of the equation, you have a problem there. So study after study after study shows that a stable family with male, female attributes being poured into the children that are created in that institution, which is what marriage is, end up thriving. And that is why the state has an interest in making sure that families thrive and flourish. This is the critique I have against the kind of non-social conservatives, those that are kind of free market. We are never going to get to limited government until we have healthy families. So I'm going to put it back on you again, Dr. Guggenheim. What is the definition of marriage?
I believe that marriage is a contract that you enter into with another person, and it is regulated by the state, licensed by the state. And I don't believe that that is a proper role of government to license and regulate marriage to begin with, but that's probably beyond the time scope that we have here today. But it is, in my opinion, it is a contract that you enter into to control another person and their property and the rights to decide what to do with that person, literally, and their effects should something happen, and make decisions affecting that person.
But you could do that without a marriage, though. I mean, Billy and I could have a contractual relationship right now for him to manage my property. We don't necessarily have to call that marriage.
That's what I just said. I don't believe that the government has a proper role in licensing and regulating marriage. You're using it, though, as justification for nothing more than procreation. So I would ask, do you validate marriages after a woman goes through menopause? Or infertile couples? You do.
Sure. Oh, yeah. But we're talking about the primary reason why the institution exists, right? So you can absolutely get married later in life. That doesn't negate what the primary role of it is and why the state is interested in it. Like I said, the state really doesn't care who you have sexual relationships with. It doesn't care who your friends are. It doesn't care who you're dating are. But for some reason, historically, the state has had a vested interest in a unique institution that produces children and raises them to become future citizens and wants them to be healthy. You can't have a nation. You can't have a nation if you don't have healthy families. And that's why it's interested in this. So just because, older people can get married, absolutely they can. But the primary reason that the state is interested in this is not because of who you love or who you build a contract with, because you can do that without a marriage. They're interested in this because of the family formation that takes place out of it.
So let me ask you, historically, if you've ever done genealogy, you have the answer to this question. Who regulated marriage? Who provided the service? And how did you go about being married historically? And this goes back before the founding of the United States and the government intruding upon people's private lives and deciding they were going to license and regulate marriage for what you think is procreative purposes.
Help me understand the question a little bit better, Dr. Guggenheim. I mean, I think a lot of it was religion-based, right? So church-based were most marriages.
Exactly.
Right.
So if you wanted to get married, and if you've ever done genealogy, you know that you don't go to the courthouse. You don't go to the parish records hall. You went to the church to find those records, because it was the church who regulated marriage, because historically religion was the institution that defined what marriage was, and that's who provided those services. So it wasn't until the United States was formed and the United States government and the state's government started figuring out that they had, I disagree. I don't think the government has a vested interest in protecting marriage at all, because they're only doing it because they found out that they could make money off of it. And so they provide this license that says, okay, you have our blessing to go out and control this person. That's all it is. The government doesn't care if you have children. The government isn't telling you, you can only get this license from the state if you promise to produce offspring. And that's why you see that the United States right now, most young people are not having children when they get married. So there's nothing in that contract that you get from the government that says, yeah, you're going to have to produce children. They don't have a vested interest in that, because if they did, they would have stipulated that obligation in the contract that you get from the state when you get your marriage license.
Yeah, I just don't see that, because I think what happened was marriage was generally understood culturally to be one man and one woman up until about 25 years ago, right? And so the United States recognized that. I mean, there was a small gay rights movement in the 70s and 80s, but it didn't reach cultural kind of impact the way it has until the mid 90s. So if you want to go, I mean, you're the one kind of going back to the 1800s, the formation of this country. Back then, it was expected that culturally that you were to get married to live monogamously. It wasn't until the sexual revolution in the 60s that changed, but that you were going to build a family. The state recognized that was the foundational formation of families in this country, and recognized that it needed to have certain legal protections, right? We have lost all definition of what marriage is. We can't tell, this culture can't tell you why to get married. This culture can't tell you why 2 people should be in a marriage, not 3 people, not 4 people, why male and female need to be in a marriage versus male. We have no definition. It is totally out there. And in my ballot guide, I point out that when our culture can't define things, it gets confused. And this is, Dr. Rich, this is where you and I agree that the left can't even define what a woman is. And when it can't define what a woman is, you get men playing in women's sports. You get men in women's locker rooms. And so I think it's paramount that our culture is clear on its definitions. And there's a unique relationship that takes place between a male and a female in the production of children. And when they live monogamously and raise those children, something really great happens. And it's the creation of a family. That is why I think marriage needs to be protected. I'll give you the final word here. Go ahead.
I appreciate that we can disagree. I believe that when it comes right down to it, the United States, the Declaration of Independence, and our Constitution give us certain rights. Those rights are the right to life, the right to freedom, and the right to property. And at the end of the day, what marriage is about is freedom and property, and allowing that to be something that every person in the United States, regardless of who they are, regardless of whether they're a man, a woman, or straight or gay, is a right that we have to protect from being violated by the government and by individuals. And if you understand the basic force behind this, I think that there's a lot of people who are using religion to justify this. And to those people, I will tell you the same thing that I tell the trans people and vegans. You have a right to believe whatever it is you want to believe in. You're free to do that, but you are not free to force your beliefs on other people. And so this is about force versus freedom, and that when you force your beliefs on other people, you infringe upon their freedoms, you violate their freedoms. And in this case, that is a conservative foundation, the principle of allowing people to the free exercise of their choice, and the right to get married is something that is fundamental for anybody. I disagree with you. I don't think that anybody who studies history can see that depending on where you live, there's cultural differences, there's differences in time on what marriage looked like. And it is still evolving because our culture has evolved. And, if you want to have a marriage between one man and one woman, go get that marriage. But if you think, like I do, that marriage is something for everybody, regardless of sexual orientation, don't infringe upon those people's freedoms and liberties.
Dr. Rich Guggenheim, I really appreciate the time. I want to give you a chance towards the end here to talk about Gays Against Groomers, organization you're leading. You host rallies to try to prevent this agenda being forced upon kids, the radical trans agenda being forced upon kids. Give folks a little bit of insight into that organization.
All right, thank you. Gays Against Groomers is also an organization of gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender people. And we oppose indoctrination, sexualization, and medicalization of children. And unfortunately, we see so much of that happening in schools right now. We're seeing school boards where children are the school boards are passing policies right now that keeps information from parents. If a child identifies as something other than their natal sex, if they have new names, new pronouns they go by, they're putting books in classrooms that are completely inappropriate for children. They're having conversations with children that are completely inappropriate and would be considered sexual harassment if those same conversations were had with adults. These books are sexually explicit and graphic. These pride flags do not belong in classrooms. The drag shows that have children at them, drag queen story time, inappropriate for children. The idea that we can change a child's sex and at 12 and 13 years of age, pump them full of chemicals that castrate them and mutilate their bodies is inappropriate. And it's a modern day form of conversion therapy. So we from inside the community fight back against that. Let the kids grow up, let them decide when they're adults, let the kids figure it out when their prefrontal cortex has developed and they can make those decisions on their own. And, protect, like you said earlier, protecting girls' sports. Girls have the right to compete in a safe, fair place. They have the right to privacy in the locker room and in the bathroom. And they have the right to safety and saying no to men in their spaces. And so that's the things that Gays Against Groomers fights for. You can check us out by going to gaysagainstgroomers.com and also following us on the social medias, GAG_Colorado.
Dr. Rich Guggenheim with the Colorado Log Cabin Republicans and Gays Against Groomers. I really appreciate the time today. Amendment J, which would remove, if passed, it would remove the definition of marriage from the Constitution that reads only a union of one man and one woman shall be valid or recognized as a marriage in the state. Dr. Guggenheim, a yes, me, a no. And I know I saw a video from our good friend Valdemar Archuleta about this, and he does point out it's not replacing the definition of marriage. It's just removing it entirely from the amendment, from the Constitution, which I have concerns about because I think it's important for us to define terms. But to Valdemar's point, and I do want to recognize it, it does not replace it by saying now marriage is open to anybody at any point for anything. It's just removing the definition that says only a union of one man and one woman shall be valid and recognized as a marriage in this state. Well, Dr. Guggenheim, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
You're welcome. Have a great rest of your day.
I'd love to hear from our callers on this. Where do you stand? We're not going to have a definition of marriage in the Constitution. If you're a conservative, if you believe that marriage is essentially the foundational institution upon which all other institutions are built. If you don't have healthy families, if you don't have a clear definition, in my opinion, of what a marriage is, well, then everything else kind of falls apart. This is my big complaint with the sexual revolution that took place in the 60s, is that we took sex outside of marriage. So you can just go hook up at a club if you want and enjoy that lifestyle. But I think it's incredibly destructive. But we took sex outside of marriage. We now can't even define what marriage is. And I think that has big problems. If it's going to be two people, tell me why it needs to be two people. If it doesn't need to be two people, should it be 3, 4, 5, 6 people in a relationship? And does that work? And is that good for our culture? I think it is imperative we define marriage as one man, one woman. We encourage sex to take place only inside of marriage. And we encourage the next generation to build those family structures, because so many of the social problems we deal with dads just abandoning families comes from the sexual revolution and the rejection and support of marriage. But Tell me where I'm wrong. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. I want to talk to you about my good friend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Did you know that last year, over 49% of the homes listed did not sell with the real estate agent who took the initial listing? This cost home sellers thousands of dollars in lower offers and painful holding costs. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams have a track record of selling homes fast and get their home sellers 6.1% more money on average, netting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. They do this using their proven proprietary systems and guarantees. Go with the team that doesn't just make empty promises, but can actually provide proof of their experience and track record of getting homes sold for top dollar. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team is so confident in the service they provide and the results they get you that if you're not happy, you can cancel at any time. No cost to you. This is their cancellation promise. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Millions of tons of lithium deposits have been found in Arkansas, according to a new federal study that claims the state has enough lithium to meet the 2030 global demand for the product used in car batteries 9 times over. In fact, researchers say there's between 5 and 19 million tons of lithium located in a geological area known as the Smackover Formation in southwestern Arkansas. The Smackover Formation extends under parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. As of right now, the U.S. relies on imports for more than 25% of its lithium. That's produced in South America and Australia, then the majority of which is processed in China. However, researchers are saying they need to figure out how much of the lithium is recoverable based on newer methods of extracting lithium from brines. A recall of hundreds of frozen waffles and other toaster foods has been expanded. The products were made by Treehouse Foods, Inc. and could be contaminated with dangerous Listeria bacteria. The company has recalled frozen waffles, Belgian waffles, and pancakes sold in stores such as Albertsons, Dollar General, Target, and Walmart. Consumers should throw away the products or return them to stores for a refund. No illnesses have been confirmed as of yet, but Listeria infections can cause mild illness or serious problems, including death.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. A great conversation with Dr. Rich Guggenheim with Gays Against Groomers. We agree on a lot. We disagree on Amendment J. That's because I believe that marriage should be clearly defined. It is a union, and only a union of one man and one woman, and the state should recognize it. I know we have Obergefell in the Supreme Court and all that, but when you start to mess up definitions, like when the left can't even tell you what a woman is, you get bad policy like women playing in men playing in women's sports. Let's go to the phone lines. Raphael, good morning, Raphael. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, morning.
Good morning, guys. Well, I just want to give my opinion on, because you guys talking about importance that is raising a family with both parents, the man and the woman, which that's the traditional way. And I think that we had two good cases over here on this country. One is a woman running for president that was raised by her single mother. And we have, on the other hand, a man that is running for a president that have children with three different marriages. So, and I think both of them came out good. So it's just, case by case, I think. I don't think it is.
Do you think that's do you think that's the exception or the rule? Most studies show that if you grow up in a single parent family, especially if the dad's out of the house, you're more likely not to graduate from high school. You're more likely to end up in poverty. You're more likely to end up in jail. You're more likely to have kids out of wedlock yourself. There's lots of social information out there that goes, it's very difficult on children to not have a mom and a dad in the house.
I think it has to do with two things, with religion and with money. Because even if you're single with children, if you get money, you can afford, to send your kids to college. And if you have a religious values like Kamala's moms did, you can raise your children with a single mother, and inject good values on the person.
Religion and money definitely help. And if you're not going to church and you're struggling financially, look, I'm very close to my family, people that grew up in a single parent household with a dad that just wasn't that present. And the strain. Mom working at restaurants, the kids never having enough money to go to camp, for instance, to be able to have new clothes, and coming home from school by themselves every single day. I don't think that's ideal. And I think it's an imperative to talk about what is ideal. And the ideal is stable families. Every social study shows that that's best for the kids. Raphael, I'll give you the final word, and then I got to get to Shumay here.
Well, that would be the ideal thing on an ideal world, but unfortunately, it's not the case anymore. All right. Thank you guys.
I appreciate that, Raphael. In the ideal world, I'd be taller and might be playing in the NBA, but I'm a short, out of shape white guy.
We have the opportunity to promote that, especially with the next generation. Get married, stay married, have kids only. This goes back to the success sequence that AEI put together. 98% of people will stay out of poverty if you do not have children outside of wedlock, you finish high school, and you get a full-time job. It's that easy to stay out of poverty. And yet we go and we build and manufacture all of these social systems when it comes down to personal responsibility. We should promote that. All right, let's go to Shumay. Good morning, Shumay. Centennial, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Like waking up, I still got my froggy voice, but can you hear me?
Yeah,
we got you loud and clear.
Awesome. So yeah, I wanted to comment on Rich's thought process on marriage, and I do love Rich. I've known him, in this fight against, with Gays Against Groomers for a while, and I agree 100% with him on protecting children. But his premise on marriage being a contract of control with another person, I feel like it lacks understanding of the beautiful union, like husband and wife coming together to create a family. And when you look at it as a contract only for control with another person, I feel like you have a basis of dysfunction for relationship. And I don't know, I feel like the institution of marriage, it was created by God. First and foremost, before any government was ever, had their hands in marriage, and using that as the standard practice, I feel like should be protected as conservatives. Another aspect that I think is important that you keep talking about, Jeff, is that family is considered the basic unit of society because it serves like producing and socializing children for the survival of our society. And, having, gay unions where you have to either have IVF to have a child, or you have to adopt, or, have to have all of these things. I feel like it's great for feeling like you're a family unit for the gay couple, but oftentimes the child kind of feels like they're missing something. And so I don't think that that's well suited for, just the structure of the family. And I do feel like gay couples should have a right to have a voice in terms of medical, like with insurance and stuff like that. If they've been together long term, I feel like that should be definitely protected for gay couples. But marriage is solely based in and authored by God. And I feel like that is perfectly mixed with being a husband and wife.
So, Shumay, I got a question for you on this one, and appreciate the call. So you would be okay if we took the definition of marriage out of the Constitution and we just called the civil contractual relationship something different? If we didn't call it marriage, if we just changed the name, you'd be okay with what the government is authorizing right now based on same-sex marriage and more, correct?
No.
Why not?
I definitely believe it's just like marriage is its own thing. But if you want to have, like what Jeff said, like a contract with another person, like you and Bill or you and Jeff could have a contract saying this person can, be my, voice when I'm like on my deathbed. This person can have rights to my will and all of that kind of stuff. That's its own thing.
Yeah,
but that's not marriage.
Shumay, that's exactly my point, though, is that what you're outlining there is a civil marriage contract. And if we change the name, then you'd be okay with it because it would fulfill all of your qualifications. It would give those same-sex couples the same access to laws that heterosexual couples have. You're just hung up on the name. And the reason I point this out is because our expectations of a civil marriage are vastly different than our expectations of religious marriage. And that's open in our society. What we expect out of a civil marriage is very, very different than a couple that stands there and pledges their union in front of God. Those are different, and they're treated differently by our society. We do use the same word, and that's why I'm coming to it. It seems to me that you'd be okay if we just changed the word of civil marriage.
No.
Why not? So you don't think they should have access to those rules and those laws?
I just think that marriage is between a man and a wife.
I know, but here, come with me on this journey. You're attached to the word marriage, and what I'm saying is, okay, I concede that being a special relationship. So let's call this civil thing something else, because that civil thing isn't a union that is blessed by our Creator. It isn't a union that you trumpet and stand up in front of the congregation. It isn't a union that is supposed to be durable throughout your eternity. That's the idea of religious marriage. That's not the idea of civil marriage.
Yeah, and
so the issue is just a name.
I would agree with you, Bill,
argument.
if it was just the idea of a word. But I think what you get from the left is this idea that it is the same.
Exactly.
Right? You get like the human rights bumper sticker.
Yes,
it's equal, right? It's equal. And I go back to the bigger issue, because I think this problem didn't just start in the 90s. This started with the sexual revolution, where we just broke apart the entire family, took sex outside of marriage. Now we can't tell you why it should just be two people, why it should be male and female. We're wandering around with no definition. So if we could
sex was always outside of marriage,
clarified, but it wasn't promoted in this culture the way it was prior to the sexual revolution.
I would disagree. I would disagree based on things like if you go back to monarchies across Europe, the kings would have they would have fights with the church on this, but they would have the right to deflower the bride before the wedding night.
Oh, it's terrible.
So, I know. So the idea that the whole idea
and the
that
church
it opened it up, but the whole idea about opening up, some did, some didn't. Some churches actually acquiesced to it. So because they bless the unions. And so the idea that we have changed our sexual standards, I disagree with based on the sexual revolution. Is a change on it.
You think our culture is relatively the same with regards to sexual activity
in
from
many
the
ways
1930s to like
in
today?
some ways, yeah. In some ways,
I think
yes.
it's totally different.
In some ways, yes. And it's just more open as far as it being out in public than what the actual things were happening.
Shumay, great call. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for
Hey, I
calling.
want to tell you about a good event coming up with my friends over at Colorado Christian University. I want to invite you to this exclusive luncheon and lecture on Friday, November 15th, featuring the 48th Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, his wife, former Second Lady Karen Pence. In partnership with the Centennial Institute and CCU President Eric Hogue, this event offers a unique opportunity to engage in conversation with Vice President Pence, one of America's most dedicated public servants, sharing his insights on the future of the conservative movement. Be among the first to experience the new Armstrong Center as CCU launches its President Speaker Series on this historic occasion. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. Limited tickets are available for breakfast with Karen Pence, lunch with Mike Pence, and morning and evening lectures. Throughout the day, you'll engage in conversations on leadership, faith, and service with these distinguished guests. Please join CCU on November 15th for these events with Mike and Karen Pence. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. That's ccu.edu/Pence. We'll continue our conversation on Amendment J. Should there be a definition of marriage in our Constitution? Is only a union of one man and one woman? Give me a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
$100 gift cards from Sean D's Persian Grill in the Denver Tech Center. Get them now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning. I think I found the right person to ask, but the 10 Commandments, is that Old Testament or New Testament?
That is Old Testament. That's the Old Covenant, my friend Moses.
So that's what I thought. So, adultery was punishable by stoning, and the commandments, there's 2 commandments that deals with cheating, I guess, right? Sex. And there's only one that deals with murder. So this controversy has been going on forever. It's a good conversation, but it's never going to be solved, is it?
Well, yeah, I know. But it has been because guess what? It feels good. That's why.
The government. Well, the government's provided a solution for us, though, right? And we just disagree with it.
Well, here's what I want. And Jim, I appreciate the call because you bring up the fact that this has been going on for a long time. But I think we're at a real problem in our culture when we aren't encouraging the right way to live out your sexual activity. And as a result, we've created all these massive government programs that have to step in to essentially be dad, to provide for single parent families, to educate the kids. The government has become parents because we don't have healthy family structures. And if we want limited government, we need healthy families. Jim, we got about 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for the conversation. It's good stuff. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks. You too. Yeah, go read the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery and honor your mother and father. See? Right there, they define it. All right. Kamala Harris did an NBC News interview. It's shocking. We're going to get to that next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
morning, Denver, Colorado. On this Wednesday, October 23rd, you tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You woke up and are working in the greatest country in history. Let's get after it. We got a whole hour planned for you with engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. The Dan Caplis Law text line is 720-819-5115. Let's grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after News and Comment with Blake Olson, Kamala Harris did an NBC interview yesterday. I watched it, so you don't have to. At first, I was like, oh, my goodness. The interviewer was just allowing Kamala to go. But towards the end, she really got into some good issues, particularly on abortion, transgenderism, whether or not she would pardon Trump in an effort to heal society. And why did she hide Joe Biden's decline from the American people? Some great audio. You're not going to want to miss it. But first, News and Comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Bill. Yeah, that was good yesterday. I can't wait to hear more of it. 42 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 77 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Dr. Rich Guggenheim, Log Cabin Republicans, on with the fellas last hour. Why does he say to vote yes on Amendment J, removing the definition of marriage between one man and one woman?
Quite frankly, it comes down to defending capitalism, which, as you know, is the most ethical form of economics. And, when you look at how much same-sex marriage, when it was legalized, contributed to our economy to the tune of $3.8 billion and has created 45,000 jobs, from an economic perspective, a free market perspective, it just makes sense to get government out of regulating marriage and say, you know what, we have an obligation to protect the rights and freedoms of all people, regardless of who that person sexually attracted to.
But Jeff says the state is interested in marriage between men and women because of the formation of the family and how vital it is to our society. And I agree. Colorado is one of 10 states with an E. coli outbreak, and it's linked to a popular McDonald's burger. Of the 49 people who've gotten sick after eating a quarter pounder, 27 are from Colorado, and one Coloradan died. On Tuesday, the CDC announced that they're working with McDonald's to determine what ingredient in the burgers was contaminated. The fast food chain has halted use of fresh onions and quarter-pound beef patties in several states as a precaution. Cases have been reported in Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, and 7 other states. DJT told a funny little unit joke about his friend Arnold Palmer the other day, and even though Obama told a similar one in the past, CNN is appalled. They can't believe it. How dare he? Thank God for this Scott Jennings guy checking them.
It's a total joke. Scott. And let me just ask you one question. If you're so offended by this, where was the offense at the Democrat convention when former President Barack Obama himself at the podium made his own junk joke at the podium? I didn't hear anybody offended about that, and now we're offended about this. Come on.
Here's what's funny about the Obama joke. A, it was actually funny. And
it's
B,
okay when he does it.
It was unusual.
Yeah, it's funny when he does it.
It was unusual that he did it. This is par for the course for Donald Trump.
Just for the record, what Obama said, which had actually, he never said anything.
He literally did the hands.
Use any words.
He said, we know
Donald Trump was talking about Arnold Palmer naked in a shower.
Abby, the scolding from Kamala Harris, who's upset because her opponent has a sense of humor. This is what we're in for the next 4 years. I agree with her, by the way. Words do have meaning. Everybody's words except for hers, because what she said when she ran for president before apparently have no meaning.
I thought that was great. He did good, man. That dude is rocking it on CNN. I don't even know who he is.
I didn't know either, but he's been crushing it.
He has, man.
It's
I'm
like the only
shocked that
reason
they
to watch
allow
it.
him on there. Yeah. I think they're like, sooner or later, this guy's gonna ruin himself. And he just keeps on destroying them every day, in my opinion. Let's see. What do we have? DJT and Kamala Khan looking for votes in Georgia this week. Trump will hold a town hall and a campaign rally in Atlanta today. Harris will be in Atlanta tomorrow and will be joined by former President Obama and rock legend Bruce Springsteen. Spare me, please. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in the Middle East, pushing for an end to the fighting between Israel and Islamo-Nazis. Blinken spoke to reporters in Tel Aviv today and called for urgent and sustained steps to improve humanitarian conditions in Gaza, where Israel is still trying to rid Hamas. Israel has also been bombing a port city in Lebanon. Convicted sex offender Harvey Weinstein back in court today. The former movie producer will be at a pre-trial hearing in New York as both sides prepare for retrial in his sex crimes case. 39 in Lone Tree, 40 in North Glen, 42 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Sunny to partly sunny skies, mild, nice weather. We're going to have highs mid-70s today, upper 40s tonight, lower 70s on Thursday. Touch cooler, 60s Friday through Friday dry. More dry, mild weather for the weekend with highs in the 70s, lows in the 40s. Changing weather, though, colder temperatures and showers by next Tuesday. Weather sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Getting a few calls here on where I stood on Amendment J. I am opposed to it. I want the true definition of marriage as being only one man and one woman, a union between them, recognized by the state and left in the Constitution. If you want more on my perspective, go to jeffhunt.com. At the top there in the navigation bar, you'll see my ballot guide on all 14 statewide ballot initiatives. This is one where Bill and I disagreed on it. It was only one of two. We got 12 of 14 together.
Yeah.
So it was two that we disagreed on. The other one being the ammo tax.
Yeah.
But in this case, we disagreed on that. But I am a no on Amendment J. I think definitions matter, and good definitions matter. All right. Bill, speaking of goodness.
Yes. We're hitting the road, my friend. We are going to be out in the public. Yes, you're going to be able to touch, feel, squeeze us this next Tuesday. Again, make sure you have your shots and wash your hands afterwards. But still, we are going to be hanging out at the IHOP at Mississippi Avenue, west of 225. And the one, the only, the legend, Mike Boyle is going to be there with us as well.
And his pup. Bailey?
Yeah, Bailey. Love Bailey Dog. Love me some Bailey Dog. Bailey came over and said hello during the show yesterday. He was here with Mike. And I love it because Bailey will come over and sit underneath the desk with me and want scratches. And he's like, here, the scratches. Give me the scratches. And then when I give enough scratches, Bailey's like, all right, you're cool. I'll see you later. I'll check in a little bit and I'll come back here when I need more scratches. So Mike Boyle is going to be out with us at the IHOP, Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225. Come have breakfast with us. We'll be there 6 to 10. The crew's going to be there. Come say, hey, be part of the show. We'll take pictures with you. We'll goof around with you when we're off air. We'll hang out with you afterwards. But IHOP does throw down the pancakes right. So come on out there, get a giant stack, and start your day off right with us. We'd love to see you. We'd love to spend time with you both on air and off air. So next Tuesday, if you can, plan to join us with Mike Boyle at the IHOP Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225. Hope to see everybody.
Be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, we don't normally get breakfast. So
we don't. So this will be nice. Yes. It's nice when they decide to feed us.
I want to talk to you real quick about my friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. For many of us, it's happening. Your hair is thinning, your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity is lost altogether. Well, I've got good news for you. It's as simple an incredible one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day. And it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. Look, we've all seen the pills, lotions that come with the monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have, but what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? I got family members who've had this done, and man, they look so much better. And with that, it brings back a youthfulness to their attitude, their energy. It really does improve their lives. From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe your hair will regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, yesterday, Kamala Harris tried to do more of these interviews. She wants to take the tough questions. She doesn't do a good job on it at all. But this was like a gut punch where you're just like, gosh, dude, she's so pro-choice. Not just kind of, not just I'm willing to negotiate on it, not I'm willing to find a middle ground. I mean, I take this so personally because my firstborn, my daughter, was born at 27 weeks gestation. She was the size of my hand. Held her on my chest. We spent 94 days in the hospital with her. There's human life there. There was a living, breathing human being outside the womb at 27 weeks gestation. That puts her in the second trimester still. And we're allowing these procedures to go forward where you're executing these children that are viable outside the womb. And the reporter asked for any give on this. Would you be willing to find any common ground with Republicans on this? Here's her answer.
Some of those voters that I spoke with at some of the events yesterday, for example, talked about they were there to support you, but also your agenda when it comes to reproductive rights and abortion access. And you have cast this as a matter of literal life and death, as an urgent priority here. If you win, it is entirely possible that Congress will be controlled by Republicans. So what specific concessions would you be willing to make in order to get something done on abortion access as soon as possible?
Well, first of all, look at what has happened since the Dobbs decision came down. A decision that is a direct result of the fact that Donald Trump hand-selected three members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention
what are you
going
to
to
concede?
the protections of
Donald
Roe.
Trump.
They did as he intended, and now in 20 states we have Trump abortion bans, which some make no exception for rape or incest, which criminalize healthcare providers in a state like Texas, prison for life for doctors and nurses if they provide reproductive care. And where we have seen this issue on the ballot, to your point about elections, from red states to blue states, when freedom is on the ballot, the American people vote for freedom, regardless of the party they are registered to vote with. We have seen that. And I know that there are members of the United States Congress who are well aware that their constituents are in favor of the very fundamental principle that a woman should be able to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
So is a question of pragmatism then, what concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch, or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals because we can go on with a variety of scenarios. Let's start with the fundamental fact. A basic freedom has been taken from the women of America. The freedom to make decisions about their own body. And that cannot be negotiable, which is that we need to put back in the protections of Roe v. Wade. And that is it.
But what if you can't do that? What if you can't get that passed and you want to save lives in Florida and in Texas and in Georgia? What do you do?
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you right now. Because
it's
right now,
it's a question that's out there because it's not a guarantee that Democrats will win control of Congress.
Well, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we do. On this issue, I think that what is clear to me is whether someone is, I was just with one of the leaders and I think opinion leaders in the Republican Party, Liz Cheney, she is, as she has stated publicly and has expressed her
She said it
private
on
feelings,
stage yesterday.
she is pro-life. But she also understands the pain and the tragedy that has happened since Donald Trump allowed Roe v. Wade to be overturned. So that's my point about what is non-negotiable. It has to be that we agree that it is so fundamental that we allow women the ability with their doctor, with, if they choose, talking with their faith leader, to be able to make these decisions and not have the government tell her what to do.
All right. So where do you start on this one? I get asked all the time, if you were in power, what concessions would you make? Would you provide concessions for rape, for incest, all that stuff? I'm not going to go down those hypotheticals. I'm not. What concessions are you willing to make? I'm not going to go to. No, you can be the president of the United States. Make a decision. And George W. Bush wrote a whole book about being president is about making decisions. In this case, she won't even provide where that line is. And in fact, that's because she doesn't believe there is a line, right? No religious exemptions. Do you remember what it was like under the Obama administration when we had to go to Supreme Court after Supreme Court after Supreme Court, Hobby Lobby, Jack Phillips, all this stuff in order to protect the religious freedom rights of Americans? No religious exemptions. You, the doctor, you, the nurse, you, the Catholic hospital, you will do these procedures even if you fundamentally disagree. So what if you don't? Are we going to put you in jail? Is this government going to put you in jail? Are we going to shut down the Catholic hospital because you won't perform abortions? And then the idea that it's your body all the way up until right before it's born? No, these are living human beings that can survive outside the womb. There's got to be some give there. And her unwillingness to embrace any type of give on this, even to the point of taking away religious exemptions. Oh my goodness. This is just gear up and get ready to make your donations to Alliance Defending Freedom, because if that person becomes the president of the United States, we're going to end up before the Supreme Court on everything, because they're going to push through radical abortion laws with no exemptions, no restrictions, even forcing you against your conscience as a medical provider to do abortions. That's just ridiculous. What did you think of that? Give me a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Bill, you want to respond to what she said?
She did dance around the issue a lot, but she did outline where her position was. And you were looking about what concessions are there. She just wants to go. She wants to go back to Roe versus Wade. That's it. That's what she's
even
looking
then
at.
Had some religious exemption requests.
I know,
and she didn't want to give those at all.
But what she said was that's what she wants. She wants to instill the protections of Roe versus Wade. She didn't do an eloquent job of it, but that's where she is. That's where she's drawing her parameters.
So
she's saying Roe versus Wade.
Roe v. Wade was abortion restrictions, yes, after viability, not before it, period.
Yeah. And some of this, that's where she's going. And I think that strategically, again, I don't think she answered the question well, but strategically, I think it is smart. Again, I'm not supporting or not supporting it. I'm just talking about the answer.
Yeah.
Because what she's talking about is, hey, remember when you were able to do this, when you had this right? All I want to do is give that back to you. I'm not trying to expand it. I'm not trying to change it. And the reason that's important is because of being comfortable with it. There's a large portion of the electorate that while they may or disagree or agree with abortion and pro-life and pro-choice, they were at least comfortable with the parameters inside of Roe versus Wade. That's what the polls showed. So what she's trying to do is she's just trying to say, hey, remember those comfortable shoes we were wearing for about 50 years? Let's go back and put them back on. That's
but she won't define it that way. She kind of goes, she jumps on a branding thing saying, well, I'll go Roe v. Wade. We'll go back to Roe v. Wade. Okay, well, Roe v. Wade allowed states to put exemptions past viability. Would you allow that?
Yeah.
And she would go, she's not going to answer that because she doesn't believe in exemptions.
But what she should go back to and say, and this is why I'm saying it's ineloquent.
Yeah.
Her best answer is, I want to go back to Roe versus Wade. And if they say, well, under Roe versus Wade, states could do. I've already answered the question. You just told me they could do that under Roe versus Wade, and that's exactly what I'm advocating for. Yes. Why are you asking me a question that I've already answered?
Yeah.
And then move on. You turn that back around on the interviewer
I don't think
because
she wants any exemptions.
the thing is, I think that she is trying to, in that answer, she's trying to dance with partners that are more extreme than she may be. I don't know. And so I think that's what she's trying to appeal to, where I think the strongest message is just Roe versus Wade. It was okay for 50 years. We disagreed about it as a society, but the vast majority of the electorate is comfortable with those restrictions and those parameters. That's where she should have been. She should have kept going back to Roe versus Wade. But what about I'm going to go to Roe versus Wade. And the intelligent thing when the interviewer pushed back again should have been, are you why aren't we talking about the concessions the Republicans need to make in order to get back to where we were? That was okay in the law of the land for 50 years. Why is that not okay? Why am I the one that is asked to make the concessions when all I'm asking to do is go back to what was okay in this country for 50 years? That's the stronger answer because it protects her statement.
Yeah,
and it's more comfortable.
And look, I wish I could believe that she really wanted to be Roe v. Wade, but when you look at the Democrat Party platform, when you look at states that have total Democrat control, it is totally wildly unrestricted abortion at any point, even right before the child is born. And so I just don't buy that she really wants to go back to Roe v. Wade.
Oh, I understand. And the weird part about it, and this is where, again, she failed in my mind on that answer. I would give her maybe a C- or D+ at best on that answer, is she could have gone back and said, Roe versus Wade had constraints. Roe versus Wade had restrictions.
Right.
Roe versus Wade, all the stuff that the interview was asking for, she could have gone back and said, Roe covered this.
And
Roe
but
covered this.
you get a sense,
and then and it reinforces
when
her
she
political
keeps
message.
saying it's the woman's body. I don't want the government involved in a woman's healthcare choices. Well, okay, is that universal? Is that all the way? At any point, or at what point does it not become her body? You know, and so that's why I don't believe that Roe is actually her answer. I think her actual answer is Colorado becomes the model, and it's disgusting in my opinion. All right. She gets asked about transgenderism because she doesn't have a good answer. She doesn't have a good answer here either.
On the question of your beliefs, what you believe in, let me ask you this question very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law. I mean, I think you're probably pointing to the fact that Donald Trump's campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars.
They're trying to define you on this.
Yes,
I'm asking you to define yourself, though. Just broadly speaking, what is your value? Do you believe they should have that access?
I believe that people, as the law states, even on this issue about federal law, that is a decision that doctors will make in terms of what is medically necessary. I'm not going to put myself in the position of a doctor, but let's also understand that Donald Trump is running tens of millions of dollars in ads to talk about two cases to distract from the fact that his policy and plan is also to take away the Affordable Care Act, which provides health care for tens of millions of people in our country. That his plan is to undo the $35 a month cap on insulin that impacts millions of seniors in our country. That his plan is to do away with the $2,000 cap on prescription medication, the annual cap. That his plan is to get rid of the Department of Education, which would mean getting rid of Head Start. That his plan is to give tax cuts to billionaires and big
just to remember,
corporations,
this was a
on the
conversation
backs
about
of
transgenderism.
working
We're on
people.
Department of Education.
So let's not get distracted.
Yeah,
by the
let's not
issues
get
that,
distracted.
To your point from the introductory point you raised, people want to know that their president has a plan to make their life better. And that includes bringing down the cost of living. It includes dealing with prescription medication costs. It includes addressing the housing crisis and affordable housing crisis in our country. It includes supporting our small businesses, investing in American industries, and strengthening our economy.
I will move on, but I don't know that I heard a clear answer from you on the issue of gender-affirming care. It sounds like what you're saying is there should be something between trans Americans and their doctors. It feels like that's a long way from we see you and we love you, which was your message to trans Americans in May. What do you want the LGBTQ plus community to know as they're looking for a full-throated backing from you for trans Americans?
I believe that all people should be treated with dignity and respect. Period. And should not be vilified for who they are. And should not be bullied for who they are. And that is a true statement for me my entire career.
She
And
must
that has
have
not changed.
She must have gotten some polling that this is killing her. Think about her answer there versus the abortion answer. This is a woman's right. I am crystal clear. I will not budge. No concessions. All that stuff. And then you compare it to that answer. I mean, that should have been a 5-second answer. And she didn't, and the interviewer didn't even ask about government funding. She just asked about access to care, gender affirming care. Yes.
Yeah, she started off.
That is so weird.
Well, again, and this is the thing that I come back to, and I don't always like whataboutism, but because we have a binary choice, and it's going to be referred to in later in one of the other clips about a binary choice, that there are comparisons between the two. And what I hear in that answer from Kamala is the same thing I hear in an answer from Trump, where he wanders all over the place and brings in things that don't mean anything at all, and then tries to close the deal at the end. It's just a stream of consciousness. And that's what I got out of her too. And that's why I think the critique of these answers by her don't land as hard as they would in a regular election cycle. If you had a Mitt Romney out there, you had a Rick Santorum on the other side directly answering some of these questions rather than wandering all over the place, it would be a much stronger critique about her not answering.
Yeah, JD answers there, but
yeah, but JD still. But hang on a second, just the transgender thing. What she needed to do at the beginning was she needed to connect the issue with the prisons. That's where she needed to go. And should have just said, and she started off in my mind strong when she talked about it being the law, that she is going to follow what the law is. If we don't like it, then let's change the law. And she should have pivoted and said it was also the law under Donald Trump. But he didn't have an issue with it back then.
The Fox one.
Yeah, but then you go, but he didn't have an issue with it back then. All of a sudden now, because he thinks he can score political points on a minority community, that's why it's become an issue for him. And I would have advised her to go into the transgender sports issue and say, we need to look at these transgender athletes competing with women.
They got a big problem because they led on that with, what was it, Title 8, Title 9?
Yeah, but the issue is that's where, in order to do damage control, she doesn't say support or not support. She says, we should look at it. And that is the blanket. I don't give you a response from a politician. We are going to look at it. You don't have to take a position. It is so generic.
Yeah, right.
And that's where she should have gone with it. She got herself
tied
up.
Here's somebody that was straightforward. I will stand pro-choice. Then she gets to the choice. And when she waffles that bad, that tells me she's got internal polling that's like, this thing is killing you.
Yeah.
Don't take a strong stance with the trans community. And I think it has more to do with two issues. One, women in sports, like you mentioned, or men in women's sports. And then two, just the idea that we're going to use taxpayer funding for that issue.
And she could have,
nobody cares if you want to go live as a trans person. That doesn't bother. It doesn't really bother people.
Yes, it does.
It's the use of taxpayer funds, and it's the men and women's sports where people go, that's the line that we just don't think they should cross.
But it does bother people that have transgender people living their lives, because we get text messages and calls when we get into the issue about people. I don't want to use that gender pronoun. I don't want to see them doing this.
Forcing other people.
Hang on a second. No. But the idea. Hang on a second. But if you're okay with this person living the life, you using their preferred gender is not necessarily a big deal. That's a hill you're dying on individually. That's where I mean.
I disagree.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, when you're saying no one cares, yes, they do, because they fight on things like names, on things like pronouns. That's where the fight is. So yes, they do care. They do care about it. Her strongest point was right there at the end about letting someone live how they want to, free of being bullied, because that's where her winning argument is on the transgender side. That's what's going to coalesce that electoral group.
I would agree that was her strongest argument, but walking through to Donald Trump and Department of Education,
that was awful.
Took a long way to get there.
And I have a feeling that she wasn't necessarily prepared for that, and she was looking for the answer.
Yeah.
That stuff came out of her brain because she's intellectually tap dancing to get to the point that she needs to make, which is the bully thing. And that should have been much higher up. And she should have kept coming back to that and say, I want these people to be able to live as they want to, and this free of bullying, free of this. And because the two issues in which she shows weaknesses are the transgender surgeries inside of prisons and sports. And
Yep.
she can address one of them by saying it's the law. If we want to change it and don't do that in the prisons, then we need
Congress
to
can
change
do
the
it.
law. And
Yeah.
if we want to do the sports thing, we need to look at it seriously, and which is not an answer, but and allows anybody out there that is either pro or con to draw their own conclusion. Like, oh, maybe she's looking at it. Maybe she agrees with me, regardless of what you agree or disagree on.
That is
It's a great way to open it.
every
Yeah.
person wanting to get into politics. Memorize that answer
Yes.
from Bill, because that's exactly right. We're going to take a tough look at that.
Tough look.
When
I'm going to set up a committee.
I'm in office. By the way,
Yes.
we're going to get to that, what she's going to do when she's in office in a second. Look, with all the work I've had done to my teeth, it's constant. I was born with bad teeth. Believe me, I'm like a pro at this. Finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I adore Dr. Mike, his wife, the whole operation. These are great people. You got to check out Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. Here's one. Every single person in the office is delightful. Their knowledge and consultative approach to dental care is fantastic. We highly recommend to everyone I know. If your gums are receding, especially if you're 40s or 50s, you're going to have 40, 50 years of your life. It's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique, actually learned from the guy himself. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The pinhole surgery is so painless that many clients go on to have other areas of the mouth treated as well. They also offer sedation if you have any apprehension at all. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike. Call 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. Phone lines are starting to fill up. Peggy, we'll get to you in just a second. We do have an open line. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
President Donald Trump talking to Latinos in Miami just hours after a new poll showed that he has a double-digit lead over Harris with Hispanic voters. The group both prayed for and praised the president for how much he's doing for the country.
Today, Lord, we lift up the man that we believe you've put your hand upon to help restore America and bring America back to the place that honors you.
And I got a front row seat of how much you cared about the Latino community, and you delivered results, and you didn't pander to us. You gave us opportunity, and that's what we want.
We're going to lose our country. Our country's failing. We don't know what we're doing. We're left at all over the world.
U.S. sales are down, and a once profitable joint venture in China is losing money. However, General Motors still managed to make $3 billion in net profits last quarter. That's a little less than it made a year ago. The Detroit automaker said it took in $48.8 billion in revenue from July through September, which is 10% more than last year, partly because the average price of a vehicle stayed above $49,000. Chief Financial Officer Paul Jacobson said that while overall sales in the U.S. market were down 2.2% for the quarter, much of that drop was from sales to large fleet buyers. An official with Iran's Revolutionary Guard has been charged in a plot to kill an Iranian-American author on U.S. soil.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. By the way, we are broadcasting live in person Tuesday next week, October 29th, 1 week from the election, at the IHOP located at Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225. You can come say hi. You can be part of the show.
Yes, come
Come hang out with us.
Yeah. It's going to be IHOP.
Bring the kids by before school. We'll
take pictures. We'll do fun stuff with you. And Mike Boyle is going to be there too. You know him from the Weekend the Restaurant Show and his great listeners as well. So come on out, say hi to Mike. He'll be wandering around and saying hi to you. We'll be on the air and then talking to you during the breaks and news and stuff like that. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have breakfast with you. So please come say hi to us and hang out with us.
It'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Peggy Centennial. Good morning, Peggy.
Hi, good morning. I have a 10-second comment at the end, but my question is on the abortion. So, heaven forbid, Kamala wins, and on day one, she does as she says, and she renews, blows life back into Roe versus Wade. Okay. So, based off of what the Supreme Court decided, that it has no standing, would place that right away an injunction would be put in place? Would
because
it be reversed again?
Yeah,
or
so
is it going to be one of those, when they have those piles of bills on their desk at the first day and they sign a whole bunch of things?
Yeah, those are executive orders. No, great question, Peggy. So the U.S. Supreme Court case Dobbs that overturned Roe v. Wade just said that the people get to choose. Okay, so if Congress, through its people, right, or if the people through Congress put Roe v. Wade, it would become the law of the land. It would supersede the laws in the states. And so you would end up with constitutional challenges, absolutely, from the states. But the states like Florida, some of the more Midwest states that have put in heartbeat bans. So once there's a beating heart, you can't stop it. You can't do an abortion. Those would be not essentially overturned, but superseded by this new law. But also, if Republicans got in and decided we're going to put together a pain-capable law, or we're going to ban abortions at 12 weeks, 15 weeks, that would become the law of the land as well. So this is going to continue to be an issue, but the Democrats absolutely, if they got the House, if they got the Senate, if they got the executive, could put in a law that restored the restrictions around Roe v. Wade.
And Peggy, this is what's important also on your question, is that Kamala sitting in the Oval Office could not issue an executive order mandating Roe and Wade across the country. It would have to go through the legislature. So even
but
if
she's promising that,
I know, but
saying that she can
she
on the
can't.
campaign
I
trail.
know she's saying that she's going to what she's going to do is she's going to start lawmakers, and that's what she's going to do. She can't do it based on executive order, and that even if let's say that you don't want Kamala to win, and that happens. If you have Republican control of either the Senate or the House, the Roe versus Wade law can't go through. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why people are talking about it's so important based on House and Senate. In my mind, the Congress is actually supposed to be the most powerful branch of government, and they've become the weakest. They've been absolutely awful at it. And here's another example. Recently in an interview, Donald Trump was addressing the transgender issue that Kamala was just having a bad time addressing. And he was asked about the transgender in sports, and he said, well, we'll just ban it. And the interviewer, I believe it was Harris Faulkner, asked him how, and he goes, we just ban it. He goes, I'll just issue an executive order. He can't do that either. He doesn't have the power to ban that either. So, yeah, there are some limitations on it.
Good.
You had one more statement you wanted to make,
Yeah, 10-second comment at the end here. So I asked my Alexa device at home, what year was Roe versus Wade reversed? And she will not answer. And I asked her, what year was Roe versus Wade overturned? And she will not answer. And
Interesting. Well, we can help. It was 2023. So.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It just kind of reminds me of, about 6 weeks ago when people would ask their Alexa device and it would, who should I vote for? And it would give, it reminded me of that. So, okay, thank
Peggy,
you.
appreciate the call. Peggy. Thanks so much. Let's go to Michael, Denver. Good morning, Michael.
Gentlemen, good morning. Nice to talk with you. What is so troubling to me as a American citizen and a voter in this election is this. People are willing to sacrifice this economy. They're willing to sacrifice this border. They're willing to sacrifice crime going up. They just had a shooting in City Park just yesterday. They're willing to sacrifice our standing in the world for one issue, the so-called right, quote unquote, to kill your child in uterus. That to me is completely, I just can't get my arms around it. Can you help me?
Well, I would go back to what Dr. Guggenheim had brought up in the last hour, and he's talking about the idea of, and again, he was talking about a marriage, but I think it can apply based on the abortion argument, the idea of both limited government and also freedom, that a government that comes in and is restricting a person's behavior and agency over their own health care seems to not be a limited government solution. And the other one being the freedom as far as allowing that female to make the choice about when, how, and why her family starts. And women have been making that choice in public and private for years and years and years. The idea that we say abortion is illegal, even in this country, that's going to stop, that's not true. We can point to the Philippines as far as what happens there. They still have over 1 million abortions a year, and abortion is illegal in that country. They still have more than 1 million of them. So what my argument with this is that banning abortion doesn't get you to the goal of no abortions. There are other societal problems and there are other things that need to happen in order to get there. And we can see some of these examples based on lower abortion rates in some of the European countries that have very strict abortion laws, but they do other things to help the women when they're starting out as well. And that's where I think we're missing the fight. But that's me.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think that's certainly appropriate. I do think it exists now. There are numerous organizations and agencies that will assist women during their pregnancy and will take their child at birth and put that child up for adoption. That already exists. What we don't have here, Bill, is we don't have any restriction. In the state of Colorado, you can murder your child up until the minute it is born. That has to stop.
Well, and
that's just wrong.
Michael, what do you do with this? So, and I see what you're saying about it, and the use of the word child is always in this conversation difficult for me because some of our people in Colorado view when life starts differently, and some of them we talk about this being a Judeo-Christian founded nation. Our Jewish brothers and sisters don't believe that's a child until it crosses through the birth canal, so they wouldn't, even if it was an abortion in the 9th month. They wouldn't view it as killing a live child as you would. And it's both based on religion and a shared common belief in the same creator. But the two religions come to different conclusions. And that's also where I have a little bit of a problem with this, is I feel that sometimes the pro-life side is using their religion more as a justification than it should in this case. I think you should be able to make the policy argument, not the religious argument about it.
I think you can make the policy argument. When you argue with people about abortion, they won't call this a child; they call it a fetus. So that's that. If they change the name, it makes it right, and that's not where I'm coming from. Jeff just said his daughter was born at 26 weeks. Jeff,
27.
Okay, 27 in Colorado, which they don't say in their advertisements for their pro Amendment 79, is that it is legal in Colorado to kill that fetus.
Yeah, and Michael, a lot of us look at this very similar to the way we looked at it during the abolition movement. It was a battle for definitions. And in that case, Black people were property, right? That's what the culture looked at them, said you were labeled properly simply based on your skin color. Yeah. And Christians, not all of them, because some were in favor of slavery, but I'd say the people that were very active in the abolition movement were going, no, these are people created in God's image. They deserve rights and protections. That's a lot of us see the battle for the sanctity of life very similar to that. It's a battle over definitions. It is a human being. To say that it belongs to a woman's body would be to say that a woman has 4 arms or 4 legs. We don't agree with that. It is a separate human being. It deserves the right to live. And that's why we fight so passionately on this.
Well, thank you for giving me some time, guys. I just say, do not sacrifice this country over this particular so-called right.
And they do run into the danger of what Mark Udall ran into in 2014, where it becomes the only issue you talk about. Is it important to a block of voters? Absolutely. But if that's all you become talking about, you end up losing to Cory Gardner and you get nicknamed Mark Uterus. All right, Michael, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Hey, want to talk to you about my good friends over at Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. That matters, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com, 303-770-5551 or Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
$100 gift cards from Sean D's Persian Grill in the Denver Tech Center. Get them now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. Here's Kamala Harris on whether or not she'd pardon Trump.
If you win, it is entirely possible that the federal court cases against the former president will continue on. He is, of course, facing those felony charges. Would you consider, if you win and he's convicted, a pardon for former President Trump?
I'm not going to get into those hypotheticals. I'm focused on the next 14 days.
But do you believe, is there any part of you that subscribes to the argument that has been made in the past that a pardon could help bring America together, could help unify the country and move on?
Let me tell you what's going to help us move on. I get elected president of the United States.
Oh, slam from Kamala.
Smart way to answer. Smart way to answer.
Should she punish? Should she pardon Donald Trump? Help heal the country. That's what she wants, right? All right, we'll continue the conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Keisha Russell's going to join us, senior counsel with First Liberty Institute. They sent that letter to CU going, Deion Sanders has every right to have a team chaplain. What are you talking about? That's because some of the crazy folks at the Freedom from Religion Foundation think that having a team chaplain is somehow unconstitutional. Give me a break. They're defending Deion Sanders' religious freedom rights. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. 48 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 77 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says there is evidence of North Korean troops in Russia. He said it's unclear what exactly they're doing, and they're working to gain more information on the situation. Austin added, it's a serious issue if North Korea's intention is to participate in the war in defense of Russia.
That people shouldn't be afraid to express their opinions. And I don't think anyone wants an America where people are worried about retribution or what people will do if you make your opinion known.
Amen to that, Eminem. So in that case, of course, he's voting for DJT, who's been the victim of weaponization of our justice system, totally smeared and lied about by the communist leftist Democrat swamp rats. Of course, Eminem is endorsing Trump in Michigan last night. No, Kamala Khan is the answer to him.
I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld.
He introduced former President Obama, who was starstruck.
I gotta say, I have done a lot of rallies, so I don't usually get nervous. But I was feeling some kind of way following Eminem. Now notice my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, vomit on my sweater already, mom's spaghetti. I'm nervous, but on the surface I look calm and ready to drop bombs, but I keep on forgetting.
I actually kind of like that.
You like that?
That was good.
How he drops all the Y's. And sounds like he's from Montgomery, Alabama. Okay, so I heard that, and man, it reminded me of Obama hanging out with Diddy back in the day.
Yeah, there you go. Y'all. Thank you. And I just want to say how much I appreciate Puff Daddy for doing
Puff Daddy
the kinds of work that he's doing, because
he's doing work all right. Diddy was doing some work, Jeff.
He doesn't have to do this. But this is part of what is important about giving back.
We applaud you, and I want to apologize for not sweating, but I do this.
That's okay. You were sweating a lot in other places.
So much. I'm so cool. I just want y'all to see everybody I'm interviewing is sweating. I'm not even touching my brow. I'm so cool, and I want to apologize. I ain't trying to make you look bad or nothing like that, but I'm just so cool. We
T-shirt. I tell you, if he was wearing one of those fancy designer clothes he's designing, he'd be sweating just like me.
Oh yeah, what a commander-in-chief with Diddy. I love it. Now, a reminder, if you don't vote, this is who could become commander-in-chief.
And then, and they're originally from Brooklyn. Okay, so the first time I meet my mother-in-law, she looks at me, she puts my face in her hand. Says Barb and Mike, my father-in-law's Mike. She puts my face in her hand. She looks at me and she says, "Oh, look at you. You're prettier than you're on television. Mike, look at her." No. Oh, my God.
Okay, think about that today. It's 46 in Brighton, 45 in Lakewood, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Wednesday, Hump Day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Sunny to partly sunny skies, mild, nice weather. We're going to have highs mid-70s today, upper 40s tonight, lower 70s on Thursday. Touch cooler, 60s Friday through Friday dry. More dry, mild weather for the weekend with highs in the 70s, lows in the 40s. Changing weather, though, colder temperatures and showers by next Tuesday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So Fox reporting Deion Sanders attacked by anti-religion group for Colorado team chaplain. Legal experts say, well, you can have one. Colorado football coach and NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders came under fire by anti-religion group. And these people are a piece of work. I've actually had to deal with them before. The Freedom from Religion Foundation. We hosted a debate with them at CCO at one point. Oh my goodness. I can give you stories. They got angry over his use of a team chaplain. Sanders had Pastor Dewey Smith pray over the football team after its win against Baylor University on September 22nd. It was a great prayer. It was videotaped. It went viral. And of course, these folks stepped in. Well, I love the folks over at the at First Liberty Institute, senior counsel who wrote the letter defending Deion Sanders' right to have a chaplain. Keisha Russell joins us. Keisha, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Oh, thank you. So good to be here.
So let's talk about what you said. CU gets this letter from the Foundation Against Religion. The people who just hate religion in general are going, you can't do this. In fact, we want all your emails that you had with this chaplain, and we're going to take you to court if you don't do it. Trying to bully and intimidate University of Colorado. You wrote a responding letter. What did you say?
Well, I just told Colorado University that while there aren't any cases on point on this issue, the Supreme Court would likely uphold this practice as being constitutional. And the reason we know that is because there are a lot of cases about chaplaincy programs, the government providing chaplains to government employees and things like that. So we know chaplaincy programs have a rich tradition in America. And so when you combine that with what the Supreme Court has said in Kennedy and American Legion and about the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause working together, we are pretty sure that this practice is going to be A-OK if the Supreme Court was to see it.
Yeah, let's talk about Coach Kennedy. He was praying quietly, privately at the 50-yard line, got fired from his job because he was doing that, told not to do it. He said, I'm going to do this. And what did the Supreme Court find in his particular case, and how is that relevant to this case?
So the Supreme Court found that just being exposed to religion is not coercive, frankly, for students, for high school students. And also that Coach Kennedy has the First Amendment right to exercise his religion by praying on the football field by himself if that's what he wants to do. Now, why that's helpful here is, for one thing, we're talking about much older students here. Deion Sanders is coaching college students, and a lot of the sort of coercive education cases that we've looked at before, they don't look at college students as being particularly impressionable, say like a middle schooler, an elementary schooler, even high schoolers. And Coach Kennedy, we know that the court said that those high school students are old enough to see religion and not feel coerced by it. So we know that a college student is going to be even more able to do that, to appreciate the use of a chaplain without feeling like they have to participate if they don't want to.
Talking with Keisha Russell. She's senior counsel with First Liberty Institute. So you see that the Foundation from Religion, or the Freedom from Religion Foundation, sends this letter wants to intimidate Coach Sanders and the University of Colorado from not including a chaplain, which you're like, okay, first of all, on the basis of all the issues we're dealing with, this is the one you want to pick. But this is what they do. Why did you guys decide to write a letter in response? You didn't have to. CU's not a client of yours. Deion Sanders isn't a client of yours. But you decided you wanted to weigh into this. Why?
Right. Because, and someone has asked me this before, and I will say it's because, look, this isn't really about Deion Sanders. It's if this atheist organization can silence someone as influential as Deion Sanders, then by extension, it will silence others as well. So people who are watching this story play out, we want them to know that this is constitutional. We want them to know that it's perfectly okay for the government to have chaplains. And we don't want this atheist organization's inaccurate letters to be construed by anyone else as a mandate for them. So we are just trying to make sure that no one else is influenced to stifle religion. And that's really why we got involved. I mean, who doesn't love Deion Sanders? But it's bigger than him. You know, this atheist organization is using his name to chill speech, essentially. And it will, you know, succeed in doing that if we don't come along and say, no, this organization is incorrect. Do not listen to them.
Keisha Russell, Senior Counsel with First Liberty Institute, joining Jeff and Bill live. We are talking about a letter that came from the Freedom from Religion Foundation telling Deion Sanders and Colorado University that it's a bad, bad, bad thing to have a team chaplain for the football team. Now, you're the law-talking person, Keisha. Neither Jeff or I have that kind of a degree. So what I would like you to do for our listeners is, can you boil down the core complaint from Freedom from Religion? And what I'm looking for specifically is the direct harm to students, because legally, the Freedom from Religion Foundation can't go, but my feelings are hurt because they have a chaplain. There's no direct impact on them. How is the Freedom from Religion deriving a direct harmful impact on the student athletes at CU, asking someone to take action? What are they arguing?
Their argument is that just by being present there, it coerces the students to somehow participate, that because their coach is influential, they would feel like they have to pray. But like I said earlier, that's number one, you're not giving the students any credit. And you're certainly not giving, you know, the idea of a chaplain any credit either. Their argument, that's basically what they're arguing.
So their argument, so Keisha Russell, just to interrupt. So their basic argument, just to boil it down, we've all had this conversation with either our mother or our father growing up. Their basic argument is the jump off a bridge argument. If all of your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? They assume the players at CU are so intellectually inept, such lemmings, that if all the rest of the players were jumping off a bridge, they'd fall them right off the end. Really? That's the dumbass argument they're making? Sorry about the language, but seriously?
That essentially, that is the argument, and that they're not old enough to make a decision from this whether they want to participate. And, you know, obviously we know Coach Sanders is a Christian and has been very vocal about his views. And I personally think their letter is more to attack him and to keep him quiet than it is about those students.
Talking with Keisha Russell, she's Senior Counsel with First Liberty Institute. They're responding to the University of Colorado. Last question. I know we only got you to 9:15 here. Have you heard from CU? Have you heard from Primetime himself?
No, we have not heard from either CU or Primetime, but certainly welcome any communication there if they ever want to talk about this issue. And if they ever hear from this atheist organization again, we're happy to help. And of course, our help is always for free.
And that's why we love First Liberty Institute. I've gotten to know Kelly Shackelford over the years. Tell folks what you do at First Liberty and how they can be involved with it.
Sure. So First Liberty is the nation's largest legal organization dedicated exclusively to restoring religious liberty. So we are, you know, religious liberty experts. We have had a number of cases at the Supreme Court that we've won recently. And if you guys want to hear more about it, go to firstliberty.org.
And if you ever have your First Amendment religious freedom rights challenged, Firstliberty.org is the first place you should go. Give them a call. They'll come racing to your defense. They're awesome. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Keisha, Russell, thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Thanks.
So we couldn't have this debate, but I'll have it with you, Bill, because
yeah.
we just ran out of time with her.
I know.
If the coach is an avowed follower of Satan,
yes,
and he brings in his satanic chaplain,
yeah,
to thank Satan for all the success that the football team has had,
yeah,
should he be able to do that?
Sure. Yeah. I think so. If it's his belief that he wants to do that, and if it's not a mandatory participation, yeah, I would. I also think I just want to know what the T-shirts are they're going to have for the thing. I think they have cool T-shirts. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's what kind of neat hats and stuff. But yeah, it's for me. It's Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
I mean, and would the Christian students feel that they could advance on the team, that they could get as much playing time as the Satan following kids on the team as well?
Here's the thing: is that if it gets into the idea that it is the religious belief that makes the delineation on whether or not I get playing time or not, then I think I have a larger
then you actually have an argument.
That I can kick it up to the higher ups and say, listen, this person, this coach that you put in charge is not making decisions based on athletic ability. They're making it based on this religious qualification. And are we going to have a religious qualification to participate in your, and especially when it's a public university.
Yeah,
private university,
right.
okay. Public university, different. Do we need to have a religious qualification for a public university? There is part of me, though, that, myself being a Christian, and if we did have the Satan coach, and if that's how you get the playing time, I'm like, fine, hail Satan, I'll sit in your stupid meetings, and just in my mind go, that's fine. It's if I had to play that game, just because in that instance, because I didn't have the power of the agency over being able to kick it up above me, fine. But I disagree with it. But.
Yeah, so the point being, there's no evidence that Deion Sanders is forcing this upon his students, allocating play time, positions on the team based upon your religious values, or whether you agree with them and disagree with them. And in the case that I had, where you have the satanic coach, I think the Christian students should have the freedom, and they should have the freedom in this case too, to go, I'm going to win you over to my side there, coach.
Oh, absolutely.
I disagree with you and your following of the Dark Lord. I want to tell you about the true light, and I'm going to witness to you. And if you're going to bring in a chaplain that disagrees with me, you're going to see me talk about Jesus all the time.
Yeah.
So long as it doesn't affect my playing time or anything else like that.
And I won't interrupt team meetings. I won't do any of that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, do this. And that's perfectly acceptable. And the thing for me, it's based on the mandatory. If it is mandatory, or if it's assumed by the team that if you don't do this, that it's, that you're going to be ostracized, then I do have an issue with it. But I don't see anything in that as far as what Deion does up at CU. And the thing that I like about it, regardless of what the religious bend is, okay, Satanism might be out of the touch, but the rest of them, if it is important to this coach, and if this coach is living what we would consider to be a good lifestyle, something that you can look up to, which is what I would say as far as prime, then they're an example. And maybe you get that chance to talk to the individuals about, oh, this is working so well in your life. I have this hole inside of me. And maybe this hole, rather than filling it with drugs and alcohol and partying, maybe that hole can be filled by what you found. Show me what you found. And I think that's a huge opportunity, but it is a delicate line for any coach, any teacher, anybody in that, in that position to walk. But I think it's absolutely necessary.
Well, I've heard from leaders up at the University of Colorado who've said he's doing great work with the young men, keeping them on the right track. And Blake brought this up on our text message thread. I mean, they did similar things against Coach McCartney.
Yeah, they did.
And a part of our Christian mission is to share the good news of Jesus Christ and to improve the lives of those that are around us. And so when you hire a Christian coach, that comes with the territory. It's part of the reason why I love Deion Sanders up there, because in part because of his skin color, the libs can't quite attack him.
I know it's
the same way they would me, right? Jeff Hunt's going to be the next coach. Kyle Clark would do an 8-part series about everything I've ever said and kill that.
Yeah, they'd have a Saturday morning special before the football game. Yes,
but when another Christian like Deion Sanders gets a chance to do it, you can't can't really go after them.
Yeah,
so
they
much.
can't, and
So,
it's nice, and I really hope that the Freedom from Religion Foundation gets handed their hat on this one, because again, what I look at is they can't point to a direct harm because they're not representing any student. No student has come and said, I feel this way. They are guessing that students feel this way.
And you know what? I think if a student came up and said, coach, I really feel like you're punishing me because I don't have the same beliefs you, I would hope Dion, because of his faith, would go, that's not right. I don't want to do that. I apologize. We're going to make sure we fix that.
It's one of those things as a parent that you learn, especially being in a long-term relationship, you learn the idea that even if that wasn't Dion's intention, because the impression on that player was, this is the choice to be made, he should at least acknowledge that's how my behavior made this person feel, and then bridge that gap and say, no, I'm sorry. And what were the conversations we had? How did I make you feel that way? That wasn't my intent. I want to know how we got there. And so you can have that. And again, what happens to that person that may not be a Christian that then has an encounter with someone? They're like, I don't believe in your religion at all. And the person's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let's talk. And there's a form of understanding there. It may not bring that person to the Lord right away, but it absolutely opens the door, at least the window, for them to consider it later on.
Shows humility.
Exactly. Yep. And kindness and understanding and everything that Jesus taught us in the book.
That's right. Speaking of great organizations, tell us about Balance Well Space.
I have found an amazing organization that is taking the pain away from me. I used to live my life in near constant pain. I had a underdeveloped sense of fear, as my father refers to it, and I did a lot of stupid things when I was young that led to a lot of injuries and several surgeries. Broken shoulder, broken back. Well, not broken, but screwed up back. And then bad knees, bad ankle. It has a long list. I got more than 500 stitches. There's the deal. I thought that when you get older, I just saw everybody that was older in my life talk about the pain. I remember sitting around and hearing grandma and grandpa talking about, oh, this hurts and these things hurt and I've got to have these procedures. I thought this was just a thing when you get old, you just hurt. Doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to live your daily life in pain. I'm not anymore, and it's all thanks to Balance Well Space. I want you to talk to the amazing medical team at Balance Well Space. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. What makes them different? Integrative medicine. In one visit, you can get neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, chiropractic care, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and some cutting-edge Star Trek level technology that's all non-invasive but has to be seen and experienced really to believe. The coolest thing is this is one appointment. Right now, you've got several different doctors, several different appointments, and you're going around the city and it takes up time out of your day and your week. And the best thing is they're never really, the problem is they're never really talking to you and about you. The different doctors' offices never get together on a call. They never have a conference call or a Zoom meeting and discuss your condition, your pain, and how they're all working together to get you to a goal. They're all siloed off independently. That's not the case at Balance Well Space. They have everything under one roof that you need to get all of that pain taken care of. Right now, we're working on regenerating the lower disc in my back. I've got two vertebrae that are fusing together. We've pulled them apart, and now we've shot some stuff in there, including stem cells, and I'm regenerating that disc. I'm regenerating the meniscus in my left knee as we're talking here. My bad knee, my left knee is now my strong knee. When I was at a concert last week, Porter Robinson up at Red Rocks, I am bouncing around like a fool, and when I'm standing there, I'm leaning on my left leg. I wouldn't have done that a year ago. And that's prior to Balance Well Space. Check them out. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. It is so easy to find and plenty of parking. It's easy to get in and out, and they're a fantastic team. Go talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the entire team. They do a personal evaluation on your pain, where you are. They create a plan. And then every couple of weeks, they come back and check with you. They reevaluate what they're doing, and they will make changes to make sure you are getting rid of the pain just like I am. But they can't go to work until you make the call. BalanceWellSpace.com. Talk to the team that is taking away my pain. I want them to be able to make the same difference in your life they've made in mine, but you can't do that until you talk to them. BalanceWellSpace.com, BalanceWellSpace.com. And when you talk to them, tell them you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show, because it helps us out a lot, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
That's great, Bill. I've got a question for the listeners. Give us a call if you'd like. Should Deion Sanders be allowed to have a team chaplain pray in Jesus' name? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Or is Deion violating his players' constitutional rights to no religious establishment? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
A record of almost 1.6 million people voted in the first week of early voting in Georgia, increasing the demands on the state to release information about non-citizens on the voter rolls from an audit the governor announced months ago. And now the Georgia Supreme Court has rejected to hear a case about new ballot rolls put in place by the state elections board that were blocked by a lower court judge. The Republican National Committee appealed after a Fulton County judge decided the measures were illegal and void, asking the court to temporarily block the ruling and allow the rules to go into effect while they weigh the decision. Among other things, the rules call for a hand counting ballots to make sure the total matches the machine count and allowing county boards to hold off on certifying the results until after a reasonable inquiry has been made into their accuracy. Major League Baseball hopes to find the Tampa Bay Rays a temporary home near their fan base for the start of the 2025 season if their home field can't be repaired in time. Tropicana Field's fabric dome in St. Petersburg was shredded by Hurricane Milton's winds. A number of spring training sites around the area have been suggested as temporary homes. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said on a recent podcast that the league wants a location for the Rays in the region if possible. A recall of hundreds of frozen waffles and other toaster foods has been extended. The products were made by Treehouse Foods, Inc. and could be contaminated with dangerous Listeria bacteria.
In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great interview with Keisha Russell over at Senior Counsel with First Liberty Institute, defending, not legally, Deion Sanders. They're not representing him, but just coming to the rescue, going, this idea that Deion Sanders is somehow wrong just because he had a chaplain pray?
Yeah.
Violating the Establishment Clause.
And you got to speak big shout out to First Liberty Institute. Huge shout out, because the Freedom from Religion Foundation took this upon themselves, not based on a complaint from the students, but on themselves. And then First Liberty said, fine, you want to get into this mess? We'll jump in that pool with you. So we don't have a complaint. We don't have a dog in this fight at this point. But if you're going to open your mouth, we're going to open ours as well.
They're like the reverse Batman people response. It's like, did someone mention Jesus' name in public? To the rescue we go to stop you from saying such a thing.
The question is that symbol? Is it a picture of Christ, or is it the actual cross?
It's weird. Yeah, right. They're like the weirdest, we heard that Jesus might be said here.
Yes.
We're coming to stop
so
that.
Weird.
I want to go back to Kamala Harris and
please.
Biden, because this is a big question, Billy.
It is.
Because right before this, we're not going to get to it's a 20-minute interview. If you go on NBC, you can watch it on YouTube. But she talks about bringing the country together, turning the page. That right? That's all her thing.
Yep.
Turning the page. Okay. Well, the last time we impeached somebody, which was, impeach and likely were to convict, was Richard Nixon. And Ford came in and said, I'm gonna pardon you because I want to move on from all this. And here you have a guy that's been indicted 99 times. Like he said, investigated more times than Al Capone. You have thrown the entire federal government's judiciary and investigative powers at this guy. If she wins, would it be best to just move on? The Republican Party is. They're not gonna run Trump a fourth time. At least, please don't.
You don't think?
I paused there for a second. I was like,
that.
We do have Ron DeSantis and we have Tulsi Gabbard. We got a bunch of good people. JD Vance coming up.
But if he doesn't want to go, pulling him off the stage is hard.
Yeah, I think he's done though. But big question to Kamala Harris. Okay, you win. You want to turn a page. How about pardoning him?
If you win, it is entirely possible that the federal court cases against the former president will continue on. He is, of course, facing those felony charges. Would you consider, if you win and he's convicted, a pardon for former President Trump?
I'm not going to get into those hypotheticals. I'm focused on the next 14 days.
But do you believe, is there any part of you that subscribes to the argument that has been made in the past that a pardon could help bring America together, could help unify the country and move on?
Let me tell you what's going to help us move on. I get elected president of the United States.
That's a strong close, though. That's a strong close.
It's kind of a slam.
Oh, it is. But it's a strong close on that, because it's ignoring the question while also answering the
She's
question.
definitely ignoring the question.
Yeah, that closing line was strong. Whoever wrote that.
I'm not going to answer hypotheticals. I'm not going to. I mean, she could, Bill, pull out your sheet of how a politician responds, right? What did they say?
We will look into this. I will come together and we will start a committee and we will create something that will look at this and from. Yeah.
Does she, if she wants to, though, turn the page?
Yeah.
Does she have to pardon?
Here's the thing. And this is the thing that I have that's loaded inside of the question. And this is why I can't be a politician ever, because I would fight with too many of the reporters all the time. I would push back at that part of the question, say, you're making the assumption that a pardon brings the country together. You're telling me that in order to bring the country together, we have to make sure that this person is not held responsible for things they allegedly did. How is that going to heal the divide in our country?
Well, that would have been a better answer than just going, I'm not going to talk hypotheticals. Not talk hypotheticals. That train is coming. If you're elected, that train's going to be on the track and you're going to have to face that question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's not a hypothetical.
No, it isn't. And
but even that answer to what you just said, no, we move forward when this guy faces the full justice system that we're going to bring down on him. But then my argument back would be, oh boy, you're just going to keep making Donald Trump the martyr. You're going to keep him in the news. You're going to keep this guy lost. Let's say he loses. Okay? I don't think he is, but let's say he loses. All right,
Yeah,
he's
just for
lost
discussion.
2 elections in a row, 2 major presidential elections in a row. I think most Republicans are going to go, all right, because the most important thing to us is winning. We're done with the guy. And if you keep putting him in the news because you keep charging him when we feel that a lot of these charges are unjustified, you're going to keep him out there. Move on.
Got a question for you.
.org.
And nicely done. I got a question. This may not be fair, and this is a direction that we hadn't even talked about.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the idea of the most important thing for Republicans is winning,
yep,
I would ask the question, is it? And the reason I ask that question is because you have a candidate you're running in a 3rd election. He barely won once. He's never won the popular vote. And we've seen it be a drag on midterm elections routinely. When in our history has the Republicans necessarily reached back in time to someone that lost the actual presidential run and then ran him again, and it turned out to be great and fruitful? There are very few examples.
No,
And
this
so
would
that's the question I
absolutely
have.
break the rule on that, be the exception. And the primary issue for Republican primary voters, the top issue was we believe that the federal government is corrupt. We believe there's a deep state, and we want the guy with the strongest elbows to go in there and fight. And he is that guy. So every time they convicted him, it's just like, yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy. But it's a very fair critique. Would we be in the same spot right now if Ron DeSantis was the Republican nominee, or would we be winning by 20 points?
I'd say I would go with Nikki Haley, your favorite Tulsi Gabbard.
Nikki doesn't have the energy. I
think
she's
she
too
does.
deep state-ish.
Well, here's the thing is I think what she does is she overcomes some of the weaknesses that both DeSantis and Trump have, and she is more amenable to some of those loosely affiliated Democrat and unaffiliated voters. I think she's more acceptable to them than others. I think with Biden, I think she would have been up, 18 points at least. And I think with Kamala, she's up probably scraping double digits. She's probably somewhere around 8 to 10 up is where I would put her, because she's better on the stump. She's better in interviews. She's more polished, and she's much better on policy. And she has some real world experience that really help.
So I think what you get, I understand the argument, but my concern is you'd be back into Romney days, and you're just kind of like, yeah, he's a little better. He's not that compelling. I don't think you'd have the Hispanic vote. I don't think you'd have the black vote at the same numbers where Trump is. Trump appeals to those communities in ways that the traditional Republican just doesn't. So it's a trade-off. Yeah, we could go with Nikki Haley. She might pull in the more moderate, disaffected Democrats, but I think you'd lose some of the MAGA energy that Trump has. It's totally unique. And frankly, I like a lot. All right, we got some phone lines. Joe Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Jeff, Billy. I'm sorry, my ire just went through the thermometer gauge.
You're welcome. Yeah, tell us what's on your mind, my friend.
Let me just say this. On any of those other wannabes, what incredible nonsense. Most of them would be groveling for votes right now. There's no way that any of them have the thick skin that Donald J. Trump has to survive the deep state attacks that this president has. And don't think that they wouldn't throw it. We would be listening to all kinds of vomit about Nikki Haley right now, or whoever, if they were the nominee.
Do you remember, Joe? You remember George Bush hates black people? You remember all that stuff?
That's Kanye.
That was Kanye. But it's like whatever Republicans up there, it's like they just train their artillery on.
Let's not forget, these people are going after Steve Bannon, General Michael Flynn. They would be attacking. They'd be finding IRS loophole violations and putting, past indiscretions online of all these people. Give me a break. Donald J. Trump, think about this. Your president has never drank or smoked. Give me a break.
Joe, I appreciate it. I want to get your reaction to this.
Yeah.
Okay, stick around.
Yep, hang out here.
Here's Kamala being asked about Joe Biden and how she spent all that time with him, but never talked to the American people about his decline.
You have made it clear that you believe this is a binary choice between you and Donald Trump. Those are the candidates on the ballot.
There's only
of course.
two choices.
Yes, and I know that Joe Biden is not on the ballot. I understand that. But the reason that you are at the top of the ticket is because he dropped out of this race. And so I want to ask you, and it was largely because of that debate performance back in June. You defended him in the days before and in the days after as you were campaigning for another 4 years for President Biden. Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely.
But that's the reason why you're here and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not. And my presidency will be about bringing a new generation of leadership to America that is focused on the work that we need to do to invest in the ambitions and aspirations of the American people.
It's a judgment question. That's why I ask. Can the American people trust you in these moments, even when it's maybe uncomfortable for Americans to level with Americans in that way? So that's why I ask. And it sounds like what you're saying is you feel like you never saw anything like that from President Biden.
I have worked with Joe Biden, hours and hours and hours over these 4 years, whether it be in the Situation Room or the Oval Office. Joe Biden is the one who was able to bring NATO together during a crisis where for the first time in 70 years, Europe saw and has seen war. Joe Biden has done the work that has been about being a leader on what we have done to fix so much of what has been broken in terms of the economy because of Donald Trump's mismanagement. I speak with not only sincerity, but with a real firsthand account of watching him do this work. I have no reluctance in saying that. No, of course I don't.
That is crazy. There's so much there. One, it wasn't just a debate performance that brought down Joe Biden. A debate performance? No. He was unfit for the job. I can't believe we were even hanging on to this guy. It wasn't just a debate performance, but then also you're going to have to ask him if that was the only reason. Well, is there more there? That was wild. Joe, what do you think?
I was waiting for her to say, your communist future can be unburdened by the past communist past. It's nonsense, a bunch of nonsense. And here's the other thing is that Kamala Harris has proven at every turn to be incompetent. Every person she has ever picked, incompetent. Look at Tim Walz, incompetent commie. Well, look at the person that is now outing Israel. They picked these people.
Yeah, Joe, I appreciate the call. Kamala Harris is just way too loyal to to Joe Biden in these answers. And to just be like, her answer should have been, there were moments I saw decline. I was concerned about my role as vice president as to whether or not I could bring that up. The entire nation saw it. It's time to move on. And I'm going to be the candidate now. But to continue to brush off, I never saw it, is, to that reporter's point, a judgment issue. Speaking of judgment, here's some good judgment for you. If you're like me, you know that living in Colorado means dealing with unpredictable weather. Hail, snow, heavy winds, you name it, we've got it. That's why we need a roofing company that you can trust, and that's Colorado's Best Roofing. They're local, family-owned, and have served the Denver area for over 12 years. They understand our unique climate and know how to build a roof that lasts. So whether you need just a small repair after a storm or a whole new roof, Colorado's Best Roofing has got you covered. And here's what I really love. They offer a free, no obligation inspection. They'll come out, take a look, and give you an honest assessment. No pressure, no gimmicks, just straight talk from the pros. Plus, They work with your insurance company to make sure you get the coverage you deserve. So don't wait until the next big storm hits. Give Colorado's Best Roofing a call today at 303-797-7663 or visit them at roofingcolorado.com. That's 303-797-7663 or roofingcolorado.com. Trust the best. Colorado's Best Roofing. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
So the Jeff and Bill World Tour is coming. To Red Rocks? No. To the Ball Arena? No. To Coors Field? Not quite. But we're working our way there.
Yeah.
And it's
slowly.
better food.
Yes. Less expensive.
We are going to the IHOP in Aurora, the one off of Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225, this next Tuesday. So the 29th.
Yes.
1 week from the election, we're going to be live broadcasting from the IHOP. This is a lot of fun because you get to watch the show. So you see how Billy and I do all this stuff and the buttons that we press and how the engineers all work it.
And have no idea really what we're doing.
Right.
No clue at all.
You get to be a part of the show. So we'll have people come up from time to time and join us to talk about different issues that we're discussing that day. And then most importantly, the food.
Yes.
Dude.
You're gonna have breakfast with us. IHOP's fantastic.
It
Used
is
to go
one
out
of
of
my
my way.
favorite.
In college, used to go out of my way. It was on the other side of town or go drive on there on the weekends in order to get over there to have me some IHOP. It was fantastic. Great pancakes, great breakfast, and we're going to be able to hang out with you and also just spending time with you. Jeff and I wander around in between the breaks and everything, and we hang out, and we have a whole bunch of discussions off air. We'll take pictures with you. We'll do all that sort of stuff. We'll kiss hands. We'll shake babies. We'll do all that stuff. You know.
That's why you're not a politician.
Exactly
It was
why.
the baby shaking
Yes,
event
that was
of
the thing.
1943
Yes.
that prevented.
That killed Thorpe's political career. Yes, that's exactly it.
He got confused out with
Yes.
public and
I do
made a
that often.
fatal
Ask my
error that
kids.
ruined his political career forever.
Yes.
Baby recovered.
Oh my gosh.
All right. It's been great. If you missed any of the show, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.